All right, it is 6 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to budget session number 1. As we get started, I want to thank first and foremost all the staff who've been involved in putting this together. It, as always, is a fantastic document. Clearly, has been many months of work put into this. A special thanks to Mr. McCreary and Terry for all of your work to bring this together. As most of you know, a budget can be a very daunting process for the uninitiated, but we have a fantastic team who will lead us through the process, as always. So I am looking forward to it, and thank you, Mr. McGill.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first part of this is really just informational for anybody that may be watching at home. The 2023 manager's recommended budget was released Tuesday, November 1st. Budget workshops will be held tonight, Saturday, November 12th at 10 a.m., Thursday, December 1st at 6 p.m., and if needed on Monday, December 5th at 6 p.m. Public hearings will be held. First one is tomorrow, Tuesday, November 8th, and Tuesday, December 13th as part of the regular 8 p.m. commission meetings. The budget is scheduled to be adopted December 13th after the public hearing. All meetings are in person at 710 Washington Road, and each workshop and meeting has a Zoom link where you may watch remotely. Public may only comment at the public hearings and public meetings, not at the workshops. Zoom participants will be able to speak during all public comment sessions. Please look at mountlebanon.org for the landing page for all things budget. Landing page has the budget book that's formatted in years past, but now includes public hearing dates and Zoom links, budget workshop dates, and plus a detailed, easy to read and easy to navigate budget. Teaming up with our Openly Vote platform, you'll be able to find more information on sections of the budget with links to our budget financial data. In addition, you may view the budget book at the Municipal Building, Customer Service Center, 710 Washington Road, and Mount Lebanon Public Library, 16 Castle Shannon Boulevard. These workshops will be recorded and available online on the municipal website, and also on Comcast Channel 17 and Verizon Channel 34 in the days following each meeting. The manager's 2023 recommended budget is in balance as required by the charter. I'll now provide you just with a brief overview of my budget message, and then we'll move into recreation. So the 2023 budget continues to focus on the provision of essential services, including public safety, maintenance of facilities and infrastructure, communication, and prudent financial management. The most significant ongoing project is the comprehensive plan update. The plan serves as the guiding document for the prioritization of investments into capital projects and to establish policy. So please check the website for ways that you can get involved and provide input. There's a special plan or a special page for the comprehensive plan called ascendlebo.com. The Parks Master Plan was completed in 2022 and contained a list of recommended projects and action steps to improve our parks and recreation facilities. Of these, I am recommending the funding of a fence maintenance program for $16,000, improvements to Brafferton Field for $81,000, and the replacement of the fall zone surface at Main Park for $63,000. The next piece of our budget is the operating budget, and that funds the expenditures required for daily functions related to the delivery of services, including personnel. People are at the heart of every service we deliver, and the 2023 budget includes a recommendation for non-contractual wage scale to be adjusted with the Consumer Price Index, CPIW, similar to the wage scale adjustments recently negotiated and agreed upon with the firefighters union. This should allow the municipality to remain competitive in terms of employment retention, in terms of employee retention and hiring. For infrastructure, our surface and subsurface infrastructure will both receive significant investment with this budget. I am proposing $1.6 million allocated to our street reconstruction program, $3.85 million towards sanitary sewer improvements, $151,000 towards stormwater improvements, and additional investment is needed in our storm sewer system over the next decade. And as such, the municipality will be increasing the stormwater fee beginning in 2024, not 2023, 2024. There will be an annual increase over the next decade to allow us to adequately fund the number of currently identified projects to collect and control stormwater. In terms of facilities, the recommended budget continues investment in our municipal facilities. Public safety building is now 20 years old. This budget funds the first year of a multi-year facade weatherproofing project at $200,000. The budget also proposes the replacement of the emergency generator at the library. This will ensure the collections are kept in proper conditions in the event of a power outage. When possible, the municipality looks to partner with other organizations to offset the cost of facility maintenance and improvements. Indoor tennis is one such organization. This budget proposes the reconstruction of courts 5 and 6 at a cost of $275,000, with the Tennis Association contributing approximately 45% of that cost toward the project. On a good news note, the real estate tax in 2022, the municipality increased the millage at a rate of 0.2 mils. I'm not recommending any change to the millage rate in 2023. Our general fund balance at the end of 2021 was 16.7% of expenditures, and projections for the year end 2022 have us within the commission's goal of 12 to 15% of expenditures. Strong fund balance is critical to be ready for any unexpected expenditures. In terms of the capital budget, out of the general fund, I'm recommending the replacement of one large dump truck for $221,000. Our current dump truck that will be replacing is 14 years old. And also Vibrant Uptown street furniture at a cost of $134,000. This would be trash cans, benches, and bike racks. Under other capital funds projects, a mini hydraulic excavator for $73,000. And this would primarily be used for the repair of storm and sanitary lines, manholes, and inlets, and be funded primarily out of those storm and sanitary funds. Also recommending thermal imaging cameras at $39,000. That would fund 6 of those cameras that are between 11 and 12 years old. We replaced 4 other cameras in 2016. Also, as I said previously, recommending Brafferton field improvements at $81,000. The public safety center facade work at $200,000. This is a 5-year project with a total cost estimated to be $660,000. Replacement again in the main park fall zone at $63,000. Replacement of our camera van for $194,000. The current vehicle is 25 years old, and so the technology is also dated. The library emergency generator at $29,000. That current generator is 25 years old. Front end loader lease payments of $28,000 for 2023. This is the second year of a 5-year lease. A number of years ago, we went to leasing that piece of equipment. We found it to be more financially favorable for the municipality than an outright purchase. We do better on a resale and actually reduces our costs over the lifespan of the piece of equipment. So the tennis court reconstruction phase 2 at $275,000, and then Vibrant Uptown phase 2 at $100,000. This would be the Parsway pedestrian improvements and the public art component that we talked about previously as we've discussed the project. So as a general overview, again, the property tax millage is proposed to remain at 4.91. Our property assessments remain relatively flat since the last reassessment was done by Allegheny County in 2013. So that's always somewhat of a challenge. The earned income tax and real estate transfer tax are not proposed to change. No change in municipal rates for storm or sanitary in 2023. As I had mentioned, 2024, there will be an increase in the stormwater fee. Actually starts out initially at $1 a month. It goes from $8 a month to $9 a month. Total operating budget increases by 1% compared to 2022. Our personnel services are up by 3.8%. Our contractual services are down by 4.3%. And commodities increased by 3.2%. The recommended budget includes capital items totaling over $7.5 million. And we can have continued full funding of pension contributions and other post-employment benefits. The total combined budget is $56.9 million, with an operating budget at $37.1 million. Preparation of the budget is a collaborative process that requires input and information from all municipal departments and offices. Each year, Andrew McCreary and Terry Winstein continue to improve the budget process. And I would like to personally thank them for not changing it too much from last year. So I didn't have to relearn everything again. But I would like to thank them for their efforts. The budget is the financial plan for municipal services and operations for the coming year. It's about being prepared to meet the community's needs to deliver essential services to our residents at the highest possible level at the lowest possible cost. Municipal staff would like to recognize the commission for their dedication and support and look forward to reviewing the budget with you and the community. Thank you. And I think now we're going to move to recreation.
Recreation's first, page 57 for those at home.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to present the Recreation Department budget tonight. First, I'd like to begin by introducing some of the managers who helped put this budget together. I'll begin with Assistant Recreation Director Tim Ishman. He is responsible for rec center budget, so that includes rink, community center, and swim center. I also have Dave Bull, our golf course manager. Do I see Pat right there? No, Pat? Oh, Pat Cannon, seasonal programs. I'm sure he's around. Maybe he got caught in some of that traffic on Washington Road.
He's online.
Or it could be on. In any case, they'll be here to assist with any questions if I can't answer them. And if we can't answer them still, I will jot them down and come back with answers. As soon as that our expert budget guy here, Andrew, can answer. All right, so I'll just begin with some of the highlights. The manager's recommended budget the management recommended budget is pretty standard for 2023. I think it'll be a little more simplified over what we did last year with the major increases to part-time wages and things like that. This by contrast is going to be pretty simple and straightforward. Overall, 2023 budgeted expenditures in the department increased by 1.9% over 2022 budget. The budget is budgeted to have a net deficit of $119,010, and this is about $140K better than the 2022 budget. The manager has recommended the 2 expansion levels, as he indicated earlier, fencing and gate repairs at the tennis center and filter replacement at the swim center. So moving on to the cost centers, I'll begin with rec management.
Do you want questions at the end? You want to go through
Whatever
for a
you
while?
prefer. You can interrupt me and jump in with a question.
I had a question. I don't know if it's you or McCreary, but why is fencing for the tennis center considered recreation while fencing for our ball fields are under public works?
It's specific to the actual facility, so it's fencing at the tennis center
Uh-huh.
as opposed to a generic park at use, non-fee generating facility.
The fields though that are rented, like cedar, turf, that fence is a revenue generating area, and that's under public works.
That's correct. The maintenance of that is, that's correct, because it's not a maintenance facility.
Right, we maintain all of our facilities, 99% all in-house. That includes, all the property at the golf course, tennis center. Some, there's just some differences, like for example, the rec center, it's basically, the brick and mortar, the roof and everything inside. And sometimes sidewalks, but it doesn't include like the grass outside because that's part of Main Park.
Okay.
There's just little differences, I think, but that's a good
So
question.
the pool fence would be recreation.
I would imagine so, yes.
That breaks. The cedar turf fence would be public works.
I think so, yeah,
Tennis fence would be recreation.
correct.
Okay. Brafferton fence was public works. There's fences, there's fences everywhere, and that keeps coming up every year. So we have to put one in.
Park,
Electrical Park,
Terrace Park.
Public Works.
So,
Yeah, I guess it depends on, would you cost it to a park or would you cost it to a rec facility? And so all those things seem perfectly natural, where in the basket they went in, when you went through those. But I can see where that might be confusing.
But in general, those fees didn't always exist. So like tennis center, for instance, so like some of the newer fees that we do charge for field use
Yes.
for things were newer. The field already existed.
Yes.
The fee came later,
Yeah,
whereas the fee's always been there with tennis center. And so the bucket as to where it all goes in the general fund as it is, it goes together in the pot
So
to
what-
fix
yeah.
whatever it needs to fix. So ultimately, if the fees don't cover general for the entire facility for the year,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter because it's all within the general fund and it's gonna get from the pot
Yeah.
of money that is the general fund.
And what about Williamsburg tennis?
That's public works.
So Williamsburg tennis is public works, but tennis.
But that's a general, non-fee,
Mhm.
non-scheduled
Free.
court. That's correct.
it's a park amenity.
Just like North Meadowcroft Park as well.
Not part of our division. And the,
But when we paid for the pickleball, that came out of rec, even though it's at a
That
park.
came in-
I think it came out of parks.
That came out of
actually.
parks.
Okay.
I just sort of set it up and
Okay,
got the contractor and paid the invoice, but it didn't come out of my budget.
okay, thank you for clarifying the source of confusion.
It's complicated.
Whatever it's worth, Parks has lived in Public Works as long as I've been reviewing the budget, so it's kind of like, it's just there.
Mhm.
Andrew will probably give a better reason than that, but it just kind of always lived in that, so.
It's really, you follow the labor is really the labor in the parks is the public works force, right? So whether it be general maintenance, janitorial, so on and so forth, kind of follow the labor and who's taking care of that, that's in public works. So that's really where it lies. Just,
Other questions?
Thanks, that's good.
Sure. Okay, so I think I was about to dive into rec management cost center. So this is like the overall administrative and overhead cost center for the department. The expenditures increase in 2023, 1.9%. It's about $6,500. And that's primarily due to salaries. We have two expansion levels, one for a full-time assistant facilities manager, one for a full-time maintenance position. That's where they are for budget purposes right now. For discussion purposes, they would be assigned to the various cost centers in the department if they were ultimately approved. Next, I'd like to move into seasonal programs. This is a very complex budget consisting of hundreds of programs. So
Okay.
there are many increases, decreases. They're based on, enrollment and trends that we see in different programs. You would never want to go through line by line, but we could.
please no.
So just to kind of summarize, expenditures are budgeted to increase 3.74% or $17,000. But revenues also go up 3.4% or $18,190 for an overall net improvement to the bottom line of about $1,200.
Basically breaking.
Mhm. So that's 70% of the program manager's time and half of the assistant program manager's time. And excuse me for not knowing, but who are those people?
That's Pat Cannon,
Okay,
who just came in,
I know Pat.
and that's the program
He's
manager.
program manager.
Zach Wolling is the assistant program manager. And the reason for these sort of allocations of salaries is both of these men are in the administrative offices and they help run the overall department because of, just the nature of
Sure.
what we do. So we do cost out some of their salaries accordingly. Other questions on seasonal? Okay, I'll jump into golf course. Expenditures increased 9.8%, which is $48,190. There are many factors at work in that number. There are payouts for an anticipated retirement of the golf course manager. It's about $18K. We have some increases in part-time wages and fringe benefits, about $20K. The golf course starters were not part of the overall part-time salary increase that we did for 2022. They are one of the last positions to address. We just sort of held out on that one for a number of reasons, but we think it's time to do that. So that's also baked into this year's budget or next year's budget, I should say. We also are seeing some increases in gas utilities. We have 3,000 in that. $9,000 increase for our new golf cart lease agreement. We lease 32 cars, 34 cars. So our lease is up this year, and we're actually going to have a brief extension into 2023 before our new carts arrive. And we're just seeing some increases there. So that's a $9,000 increase there. And repairs general, we're lifting that up $4,500 just to reflect where the budget has been trending with various repairs throughout the golf course and buildings. Revenue is also budgeted to increase by $34,550 or 7.5%. The result is a net loss of $41,820. I'm hoping that, based on rounds and how things go, that would be better than that, but that's our scenario right now. Any questions on golf?
We talk about number 4, service level number 4. If it's the last sentence says this position was estimated in 2008. If this position is funded, an estimate of $1 per round increase is recommended to offset the cost. Would that completely cover the cost? As far as you know?
No.
Okay, so there'll still be a cost there.
13,000.
It would cover $13,000.
No, there'd be a $13,000 increase in the budget.
Okay, so instead of 38,500, it'd be 13,000
That's correct.
estimated because we don't.
Yes, 13,000 and change because approximately based on 25,000 rounds,
Yeah.
$1 a round
Uh-huh.
net is an increase of 25.
Interesting. Okay, so for only 13,000, I'll flag that for review at the end.
Andrew, also, on that, we're proposing to reduce the part-time
Part-time
salary
wages,
by
thank you.
17,000 also.
Yeah, so that'd be the other.
Yeah, we're not paying this person $38,000 a year. There's a net.
Right.
Yeah.
They're being paid more.
They're
but
already
We're reducing some of our part-time staff to that.
To cover that.
Well,
That's
thank you, Dave.
perfect. And you probably know this already, but just in case you don't, anything that any commissioner decides to kind of like
Flag goes into the.
Okay, cool, got it. I know.
And just for further clarification, this is a position that we had,
Uh-huh.
I'd say 14 years ago. And it was just one of the cost savings measures that was implemented at the time. So anyway, we can give you more details on that if you would like. I'll move on to tenants. Expenditures are budgeted to go up $35,470 or 16.9%. That's due to increase in part-time wages. We have a formula that we apply. It's actually a spreadsheet to account for cashiers and maintenance salaries at the center. And so that should be a worst case scenario. You get a bunch of rainy days, you save that kind of thing. So it seems like a pretty large increase, but hopefully it won't be that bad. Contractual maintenance is up $17,550. I mean, this is just some of that pandemic related stuff we're seeing, supply chain, fuel, labor, of course. The two biggest problems here are grass cutting went up $6,700. This applies to the swim center too. We have contractors that mow both tennis and swim center. Those went up about 240% over 2021.
Do we want to bring that in house? I know that we won't decide that now, but just future.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, you'd have to have a place and equipment and so on, and it seems more economical. We certainly would have nowhere to put mowers and fuel and bodies. I mean, I would say no, but it's worth
And also the process, it's outside the seasonal 12-week summer season. It's before and after, so it's usually like in another stop. When I worked at Upper St. Clair, they got a lot of high school kids.
Yeah.
So college kids come back for that 12-week period, 10 to 12-week period. But we start cutting in early May. And we had cuts in October.
Well,
We've got to fill all that in between, so it's difficult to do in-house if you're just to do it for that season.
that's a good point, and to make matters worse, they also do leaf collection at the end of the season. So this goes on into November. I would never be able to fill this with like a part-time seasonal. It would be almost
Or
impossible.
Public Works, I would think would be, maybe the house of it, but
We
it
did,
sounds like not.
we did talk about when we go out for bid for this season. Instead of, in years past, we've done it, either David's bid it on his own, or we've done it as an ad alternate to our other mowing contract. We've talked about potentially this year when we go out to make it a deduct alternate, put it as part of the base bid,
Mhm.
and then see what the number would be to
Yeah.
pull it out.
Mhm.
Because we may get a better response that way. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try that.
Try
this
it.
year.
Cool.
Yeah, we're trying to come at this any way we can, but it's been a pretty substantial increase that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, tennis center revenue, we are also projecting an increase there, mainly in our programs of $12,600. Bottom line is budgeted to decrease 22,870 as compared to 2022. And then just briefly to touch on platform, which is kind of a part of the tennis center budget. We have increases for utilities, water, sewer, and gas. Water and sewer, we have never had before. With the new building, we will have water and sewer into our budget. And then based on that, with the increases in revenue that we're budgeting, we're looking at a bottom line of almost identical, about 1,500 to the good.
It says in there includes heavy snow removal and the operation of court heaters to melt snow and ice. So the cost of platform in that cost is included of snow removal.
Well, let's put it this way, in 16 years, I don't know that I've ever had that snow removal
Yeah.
paid for.
Okay.
Typically, platform tennis players are conditioned and very accustomed to coming and shoveling the court before they start. A heater keeps the court melted. It's not going to remove 4 inches of snow. It's not going to remove 2 inches of snow. You'd be waiting forever. So they have plastic shovels. They all take a little quadrant of the courts and clean
Take
them,
care of
and then, the heaters are on and they stay
Okay.
nice and dry after that. But you need an initial snow removal. We've sent I might send some people over and shovel if it's just abysmal, but we're just doing that with existing folks. Like I don't have a contractor on
Okay, that's what I
standby
was
or
wondering.
anything like that, but I'd like to have that just in case, you know what I mean? Like if we had to really dig them out, I'd like to be able to, try to do that with one of our contractors or something like that for an additional fee.
But regarding that new building, I don't know if anybody's done it recently, it's amazing. It looks fantastic. They're gonna have some kind of open house for everybody, I guess, at some point. It looks really good.
That's great. I haven't seen it. I drove by it just the other night.
Should be opening
Yeah.
soon. I know they're working hard to get their occupancy, so
Yeah.
that's the next step. I think we're getting close.
They are getting close.
Okay. All right, if there are no further questions on tennis, I can move on to ice rink. Okay, and the ice rink expenditures go down $7,510 next year, which is like 0.7%. There are some offsetting increases and decreases in the expenditures. Some of the larger ones I'll touch on. There's a decrease of $50K for the railing project in repairs general. That was a carryover last year. Odds are it's going to be a carryover this year. We're having a lot of difficulty finding contractors that will bid on that. So we need to continue to look at that. But that's a partial railing replacement in our bleacher area in the main rink. We did the stairwell and the lobby in 20. I believe.
Just as an FYI, just to interrupt you, Dave. Service level 3 is a continuation of that project. Is to enhance the
Right.
funding for, as he stated, was partial to get it closer to a full replacement. So.
Yeah, and the rising cost of materials are going to be a battle there too. So
Yes, they are. If you can even get them.
right.
That.
We also have an increase of about 30K in full and part-time personnel costs, and some various other smaller changes in the budget. But we are also budgeting a increase to rink revenues of 121,000 or 9%. This is attributed to a 70K increase in rink ground and 53K in programs, and the result is a $128,600 increase to the bottom line.
Wow.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but the rink was really one of the last to really fully come back online.
Yeah,
As we hired a learn to skate coordinators, so some of our revenues are finally ramping back up to where they were pre-COVID. I know, it seems like such a long time ago now. But we did hire somebody, she's been doing a great job. And that those programs are back up and running, so they were some of the last to come online, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much at full speed
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
Rink rental fees come from the lessons from, I guess,
No.
hockey groups.
Hockey groups are the only, yeah, all our programs, we don't assign any rental costs to that. That's all program revenue.
Okay.
It's strictly rental, so we'll have outside contractors doing clinics, we'll have our Mount Lebanon Hockey Association is our number one renter, rents hours and hours and hours of time
Okay.
every month. So we have various other teams in there as well, the high school team is in there. So, and figure skating is another renter of the space, so those are our rentals, everything else program related, just revenue is driven into the fees.
Okay, thanks.
so I want to flag the lockers. They've been on the list since as long as I've been on commission, and I've heard complaints for people. If hockey's bringing, if ice skating is bringing in $150,000 surplus, I want the lockers to work. They don't all work right now, right? My understanding.
We have some older lockers that we use for like skating pros and things like that, that, yeah, could use an upgrade.
So it's only 10,000, right?
That's the start phasing the plan, so. I'll let you get started.
Actually, I was just gonna refresh my memory on that.
Yeah, so this was, instead of a full. And correct me, where you'd like here, Tim, instead of the whole banquet of lockers, it's to refurbish sections of it.
Okay.
So that, hey, this one doesn't work, let's replace the hinges and you do all that stuff, but do it on a section scale, similar to the way you do the sidewalk replacement, right?
Okay.
This slab needs replaced, well, this locker, or this sets of lockers which are interconnecting need to be replaced. We're gonna do 10K this year,
I see.
paint them up, look them fresh, next year come back
Another
and
10K.
phase it in.
And
That
Tim,
way.
correct me if I'm wrong, we're not talking about coin lockers, right? Yeah, we're just talking about the ones that we use for skating pros and then back in the coaches area. So these are not coin lockers. As far as we know, coin lockers are functioning. I mean, they're not a big revenue generator, but it's a service. You know, you need to secure your belongings, your valuables. That's where you can do it. Okay. Other questions about the rink? Okay. Swim center expenditures go up about 1,500 or 0.3%. There are a lot of changes again here, ups and downs. Revenues were increased 21,950, mainly due to admissions. And then the net loss decreases in 2023, $20,410 or 27%. Okay. Community center. Reducing expenditures, $39,310 or 18.8%. Attributed to, like in this year, we had a 30K budget allotment there for maintenance and replacement of concrete around the center. We have 0 in 2023, so that's the main driver of that difference. In minor equipment, general is reduced another 7K. We have a carryover for video cameras. And then we're also budgeting for a projection screen in room A of $2,500. So that's one of the differences there. We're also reducing our budgeted amount for tables and chairs. We've purchased a bunch this year. Tim thinks we're going to be okay for next year. So barring some, major vandalism or something of that nature, we think we'll be okay next year on tables and chairs. So that is the various cost centers within the recreation department budget. Are there any questions?
For community center, what about, of course, I have enough, I always have questions. What about an architecture study? Part of the proving the roof, we talked about doing an architecture study on that community center. Has that already been budgeted?
We did not budget that. Trying to remember if we actually got a good number to do an architectural study. David, you got a preliminary number, but it wasn't really a full
Oh,
architectural.
We were
study.
going to work on coming up with a better cost.
Yeah, we didn't have a hard number. Definitely not at the time of the budget, Mindy, so that's why it's not in here, quite
We
honestly.
could put like a
You want a placeholder for
a
it?
placeholder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion was
And-
that I was gonna approve the
The-
roof contingent upon an architectural
Right.
study. That's why I voted to approve the roof.
And that's fine. The other component piece here
Mhm.
is that I know that you and Craig are sort of doing a deep dive into recreation and programming. So depending on what that comes out to be, would drive that architectural study. Are we looking to add space for programming? Is it another indoor space?
No, I was wanting the
Programming?
opposite, always the opposite. An architect coming in and saying, what can we do in this space for a reasonable amount of money? And then, there's a demand for all of the above.
But the other piece to that is they have to first go out and determine market. Right? Is there a market for whatever it is that you intend to use the space for? So similar to when we did I'll say the renovation or upgrade to the swim center, right?
Mhm.
We had somebody go out and do a market analysis of competing pools in the area to tell us what we should consider as part of the program elements for the pool.
If you want to remain competitive with the other communities.
Correct.
And then they usually factor in, I'm going to talk about this for a moment, since this is something I know a little bit about. Then they would factor in programming requirements based on perhaps part of your survey, but also some things that may not be revealed in your survey that are more cutting edge. But also they would have to factor in all the ADA requirements because we definitely need an elevator in that building. And then I would think you would want to do some fairly big blowing away of some of those mounds and that other stuff that's there that makes the grass cutting like horrible, and that my grandchild will run up and make a mess with. I think you are looking at a process that would take you a fair amount of time with a lot of interviewing with all of your staff and some of your volunteers to have a real feel for what it is we want. And I think it's a culture question for the township is how much do we want to do in recreation? So it's big, it's a pretty big number, I think. I don't think it's all
Well,
study.
the other component piece that we've talked about also is parking,
Absolutely, well, of course.
because I know that
Yeah.
even with our current program,
Right.
if the hockey
Parking
rink's
isn't there.
in full use and
Right.
it's a warm summer day,
Right,
and you've got one or two other things going on inside of the
that's right,
building,
Yep.
there's not enough parking now.
right.
And if you're gonna add additional uses into the facility,
But,
Right.
yeah,
how does that all work?
even just to make it
Can I-
compliant though, yeah.
Can I add something too? I was gonna wait until the public works portion of the budget to pitch for this, but I'll mention it now too. So one of the things that came out of the Parks Master Plan that we did was a recommendation for a Main Park overall site plan, because Main Park was kind of piecemeal together over
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
And there is a number in the budget for that under the parks budget in public works. It's below the line. But that was one of the recommendations of the Parks Master Plan was if you're going to expand the rec center, if you're going to potentially think about moving playgrounds around or changing what you have, or anything else that, or, changes to the tennis center, installing pickleball somewhere, like looking at Main Park holistically and doing an overall site plan, because we really don't have a site plan for Main Park to say, this should go here, this should go here. Doing that now would probably behoove us for building expansions or things like that in the future, so that we would have an actual plan to say, these are the assets we have, this is how much parking we should have, this is where the assets should go, all that kind of stuff.
I think before we get into things like site plans, I'm certainly not opposed to studies that look at competitive recreation in the area, because that's important. We have a feasibility study which covers parts of this, right? Although we haven't, I don't think, taken a super deep dive into that information. So we do have part of that. Part of the work that Mindy and I are doing with the rec department, I think, will inform some of that. David has a survey that will also inform some of that. I think we know that there's need there just by nature of we have packed fields, right? So I think having a better understanding of exactly what the teams look like, what the need is among our residents, which we're not going to get from an external survey. I think we either have to hire somebody to work with all our clubs and our teams, or we have to do that work ourselves. I think that informs part of this as well. And I think all of that would precede any kind of site planning, because all of that would be informational and foundational for determining what we need to do. Do we need to build 5 new fields? If so, it's not going to happen at Main Park. So I think all that work needs to be done before we get into things like doing site plans, whether it's at Main Park or anywhere else.
Yeah, when I think of the rec center though, I'm just talking about expanding that lobby and making it ADA compliant. That's the minimum. We're not gonna put a lot more there. That's what the, recreation feasibility study came back and said. It's gonna be too expensive at that location.
Well, I think the question on the table was, do you want that as a placeholder?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what that number would be.
We don't know yet, but they will come back with something preliminary.
And that's a number.
It'll
And
be
it'll,
on-
it'll work and it won't work. Yeah.
Exactly.
I had a question. for Drew.
Yeah.
Item 2 about sidewalk repair. I'm assuming the thought was, let's wait until all these things that Commissioner Rainey brought up before then deciding what, you may be ripping up the sidewalk,
Exactly.
let alone.
Correct,
fixing
and
it.
I wasn't gonna move that forward, plus I think we still have to carry over.
Well, actually, we are gonna use the carryover. It's actually in progress right now. This is another phase of that. This isn't like a complete repair, but it's another substantial repair. We discussed this as part of the budget process. And if there's going to be an architectural study, we felt like we should hold off as long as possible on doing further concrete repair. Should that get repurposed or affected in some way by plans to renovate the recreation center. So that is what we were thinking.
I'm confused. So you're gonna go ahead and patch the holes that are there?
Just this year's patching.
Just this year's patch?
We're not gonna, we didn't
Sure.
ask for, not, well, we asked, but we're holding off on recommending that because of,
Right.
the pending or potential for an architectural study.
Okay.
So, I look at it as we're doing the minimum here just to make
Just keeping
things,
the trespassers
safe.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. That makes sense to me.
The big picture would be if we're not doing anything to the rec center, replace all the concrete.
It all has to be replaced.
All of it.
That's
Yeah.
what you brought up a couple budgets ago, and I would say instead of replacing the concrete, maybe we can expand that building.
And that would take away a big chunk of that concrete to maintain.
Exactly, which would make
Kill 2 birds. I was just a figure of speech. No birds were harmed.
in this budget process.
Synergy, I'm looking for synergy. Hey,
So, pickleball. We think about pickleball for a minute, because I get, every neighbor in America saying, so when are you getting this pickleball courts? Okay, so I know maybe not new pickleball courts at this point, because of course, if we're gonna take a deep dive and a good look, then we might want to put them someplace else. Is there any place you can restripe things or add lower nets or whatever you could do in your magic to make things both ways, tennis and pickleball? And I know nothing about the sport, so.
We've done a bit of research on pickleball. We've discussed all kinds of different things.
Okay.
The cheapest and I think most attainable way to get, some bang for our buck in
Yeah.
pickleball is to put 6 courts on Meadowcroft Park tennis courts. We've talked about all sorts of things like basketball courts and building new ones. Building new is pretty cost prohibitive. Basketball is popular. We would be reluctant to take away a popular
Sure.
resource out there in our parks. And pickleball is extremely popular and we have a lot of tennis courts. So that's the logic that has brought me back to Meadowcroft.
Okay.
So that is in the CIP. We have a number in there.
60,500
Thank you.
Meadowcroft.
There's a chance, I think that it could be less. There's a really a lower cost option if you wanted to leave the tennis nets alone and use them as sort of the backstop for pickleball instead of putting in fencing. Not as good, but lower cost. You could probably cut that number in half.
Williamsburg is stretched for pickleball right now.
It is, but it's on standard tennis court with standard tennis net, but yeah,
What's
and
the
so
utilization?
is
It's not very
Meadowcroft.
small.
And
actually.
what's the utilization over there?
I told a little anecdotal story. I was out for a walk, like 2 weeks ago. It's dark. I'm coming back to my house past Williamsburg. I see lights on the courts. I go up there. There's people playing pickleball in the dark with two little tiny like lanterns.
Interesting.
And they said they are there because the lighted courts over in Meadowcroft were packed. So
Wow.
anecdotal evidence, but
Yeah.
Every time
it's
I
very
drive
loud.
by, there is activity.
Okay, that's good to know.
We do have to be careful though, because I did get complaints from tennis players where we did striping that it was annoying for tennis players to play on those weird striped courts. So I'm not saying we shouldn't stripe future ones. I just think we should maybe have some additional conversations. I know in conversations with the platform tennis people, many of whom play pickleball as well, some of them also voiced the same concerns that where we did pickleball striping, it was confusing for the tennis players that they had spoken to also. So I think when we increase pickleball in an area where we're restriping, that may be an issue. Whether or not it's one that we need to worry about is a different question, but I think we should talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the complaints that Commissioner Grella got, but what happened after Meadowcroft courts were finished is someone came in without consent of the municipality, put down white duct tape lines for pickleball. It was very confusing because all the lines were the same color. When we put in the lines, we installed a contrasting color. People could still complain, but it's much less confusing than having two
Right.
sets of white lines. And if we were to build or construct pickleball courts at Meadowcroft, just to be clear, they would be dedicated. There would be no tennis on those courts. It
Okay.
would be strictly
Okay.
pickleball. Even if you left the tennis nets as a backstop, you would remove tennis lines.
Got it.
There would be no doubt that they are pickleball courts.
And you get more courts because,
You get
tennis courts
6
are big.
in a space of 2.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, they're much smaller.
yeah, so
And
it's
I
big.
get
versus
calls
two.
every day.
Wow.
Every
Where's
day.
our pickleball courts? What do they say?
Where are your pickleball courts on our campus, if you would? Where's your pickleball courts? I'm like, you have to go up my address. I have one there. We don't have them. And plus, David and Joe and one of our pros, we played, was that 2 summers ago, David, on the clay court. It was fun. It's a super fun sport. But on a clay court, the ball just doesn't bounce high enough because it's a wiffle type ball.
Sure.
And the other thing regarding this, compared to tennis players, is it's freaking loud. A pickleball is a hard surface like that with a wiffle, it's like smacks, it's loud. And then, so it has to be there, not interspersed with tennis people. They'll freak out if they hear that. I just know my clientele. I'm just saying.
Feel like
good
Will
info.
Davis as a swimmer.
Yeah.
I think we could get people to get along. Maybe some tennis players would appreciate pickleball if they gave it a try. That is one of the discussions on the table. You know, do we want to kind of make the tennis center and more of a racket center? We already have platform tennis.
Sure,
We have
yes.
tennis. Could we dedicate 2 of those courts to pickleball? Yes. Should we? Well, that's part of what we want to discuss. So.
Okay.
Oh, show us
What's
the
the
plan.
timeline for
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, show us that plan.
Well, I think it relates to some of the other topics we're talking about tonight. One, I think we need to get the program survey done first
Yeah.
to see what that tells us. Is a main park master plan factor into this? Does the program survey then give us more information to say, hey, we should go back and do a tennis survey? Let's dig deeper into
Sure.
other topics other than programs. Let's talk about facilities. You know, how many courts do you think we really need? Could we, how would you feel about repurposing 2 courts to pickleball? I think we're a ways away from jumping into becoming a racket center. I think we need to look at some of the other data first and maybe take some intermediate steps.
Well, yeah, and I totally appreciate that. I think we have been hearing pickleball for 2 years at least. Right, and at some point, it's like, what's the plan? Yeah, again,
We want
it
pickleball.
will take time to get there. obviously. But what's the plan to go from where we are to at least knowing what needs to get done? And how we're gonna get there. Not expecting you to have that answer right now, but I think, you know, as Commissioner Randy and Grella work through the process with you over the next hopefully 6 months, we're at a point where we're like, okay, site plan for main park, but we know that pickleball is going to go in other places, whatever it is, and it's going to cost $10 million. I shouldn't say a number. It's going to cost a lot of money, but we're going to do it over the course of 7 years. You know, projected.
Yeah. Agreed, if pickleball is going to go at Main Park, but I think Meadowcroft is a separate issue. We've talked about it for years.
Yeah.
It's right there. It's low hanging
If
fruit.
that's what I was
So
gonna say,
if you
it
want to
seems
put
like
in
Main
pickleball, I think we're ready.
All right, put it in a Meadowcroft for 60,000 or maybe cheaper. All right, we can even
And then
fundraise. All right,
It's
so
a
we'll
real
do,
process
yeah.
going for the other.
So CIP's in a couple days.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'll flag it now, but I know we're talking about CIP. Is it Saturday or next? No, it's not till December 1st.
Just remember, if we talked about the pickleball at Meadowcroft, we just need to have a conversation with the school district because we lease that facility from them. They do use
Okay.
that playground. Certain, there's signage up there now between
Sure.
11 and 1.
Right.
But we have tents there now, so.
So,
Yeah,
but
during-
just so everybody understands the.
Yeah, got it.
There
Makes
was a
sense.
little, there was a little conflict
Oh,
last year.
no.
Among the people that were playing on the courts and didn't want to get off for recess, so.
Oh, there we go. Those darn kids.
Yeah.
Ankle biters.
And just, Kitty, while we were talking, I
Yeah,
found your email from August 2nd about the architectural study, and my response that I sent on the 3rd, I recirculated that to everybody,
great.
especially for Ann, who was not here for that, so that everybody will have the benefit of
Okay.
sort of that, where we had kind of left that, and I think,
Information.
I looked through it's a fairly lengthy email.
Yes, I can't read
Responses
it
are
now,
in
but yeah.
blue, But, I think Ian and Greg were gonna look a little further. into
Okay,
it.
so there's enough information
So
there
there's
to kind of
enough,
get
I
started
think,
and get a price.
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll come up with a
Yeah.
ballpark.
thanks. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very much appreciated.
All right, next we're going to page 63, fire department.
Yeah, yes. I was like, I'm not home.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
Sure.
Can do that.
Okay, we got.
Pay attention.
Oh, handouts,
Come on.
great.
Got not paying attention
Awesome.
to class, sorry.
Planning tomorrow.
I'm really excited to be here because we're usually last. I'm gonna pick cards this time.
Oh, that's a good sign or not?
I may need to be out of here.
Does the fire department need pickleball for a training facility?
Some comments that are probably worth 15 minutes, but hey, thank you for the opportunity to be here, to present the fire department. Through the hard work and dedication of our 18 career fire officers, 2 administrative staff, and 40 volunteer staff, we continue to provide superior service in accordance with industry standards and best management practices validated by the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. For the 3rd consecutive time, we were accredited this past year, continuing to be one of only 301 accredited fire service agencies in the United States and Canada, and one of only 14 agencies to be both accredited and hold an Insurance Services Office Class 1 rating. While most fire services agencies focus strictly on response and staffing, there's a realization that response is but one component of the total community fire protection planning process. Other components that reduce the risk of fire include strict adherence to and enforcement of the community's building and fire prevention codes, and the delivery of enhanced life safety education programs that target specific risks and risk audiences. Mount Levin's historically low fire loss, ISO rating, and low number of civilian fire casualties are good indicators of the effectiveness of the community's comprehensive fire protection planning process that helps save lives, livelihoods, and property. Our fire and life safety education program delivers over 300 educational lessons to students in kindergarten through 5th grade, visiting each elementary classroom twice a year, teaching age-appropriate fire and life safety lessons requiring homework that encourages the lessons to be shared with parents and adult caretakers. Over the past 4 years, the program has expanded to include preschool, homeschool students, 8th grade cooking safety classes, programs for special needs students, a Stop the Bleed program in high school health classes, and instruction in the driver's education program. Our fire inspections division is on pace to complete over 1,600 inspections and re-inspections of all high-risk occupancies, permit-required businesses, and all apartment buildings, ensuring these properties are maintained in compliance with fire safety measures to further provide for the safety of occupants and to protect the livelihoods of employees, the property owners, and maintain the municipal tax base. Our community risk reduction division installs smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, inspects residential fireplaces, delivers community education programs to seniors and other community groups, participates in community events, delivers our Citizens Fire Academy, maintains our special needs database, and provides constant messaging regarding hazards in the community, all designed to minimize the need to respond to an emergency. Our volunteer staff not only augments the career staff with night and weekend minimum staffing, but also provides for additional personnel in more significant emergencies. Volunteers help us deliver many of the aforementioned programs to an enhanced level that a staff of 18 otherwise would not have the capacity to deliver or not have the capacity to deliver to the extent it is currently delivered. In 2022, volunteers will put in over 10,000 hours of training on incident response, performing inspections, attending community events, delivering outreach programs, and performing standby shifts. While a large portion of the state and country has witnessed a sharp decline in volunteerism, we're grateful for our residents who choose to serve the community in this capacity. It is your support, along with a high level of organizational excellence, that allows us to continue to attract good people. We currently have 9 volunteer applications, many of them participants in this year's Citizens Fire Academy, that will greater strengthen our volunteer ranks and our capacity to do good work in the community. In 2022, management and the Career Firefighters Association engaged in interest-based bargaining and agreed to terms on a 5-year contract. This process saved money for both sides, was respectful and fair. We thank you for working through this process, and we continue to appreciate the support of the commission and management in our efforts to deliver exceptional service to our residents in a cost-effective manner. Our proposed 2023 budget includes a net 4.9% increase over 2022. The majority of the increases related to negotiated personnel increases, with the exception of a $7,500 increase in our phone budget that will allow us to increase efficiency through the use of iPads with cellular service with our new inspection software to complete inspection paperwork and do updates in the field. And a $9,900 increase one time to replace 10-year-old pages. Get replaced about every 10 years. That are utilized to alert off-duty career staff of a callback for major incidents. And with that, I will entertain questions.
Well, I have to say, I'm gonna interrupt here. He has to explain the pages. You have to explain.
Right.
So
Tell him why you, because I have to say, I know they were thinking it.
pages?
Yes.
Yeah. You're probably thinking your old digital.
Yeah, exactly. So who passed the 80s?
No, the technology has not changed all that significantly. It's amazing because I probably had the same type of pager in about 1991 when I joined the fire service, but it's a little bit larger than your old digital pager. It works on a special radio frequency. And so when the dispatcher pushes a button, it's the radio frequency that makes the pager, it's pretty loud, beep, 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 and then it gives the information on the call. Now, there are great technologies today. We all have stuff on our phones, on our iPads. It gives us directions, shows us where the hydrants, but a lot of times in the middle of the night, the phone doesn't wake you up. So
Yeah, I worked with Dan Morris, Lieutenant Morris, who's in charge of our radios and communications, and we did explore a number of different options, cell phone based. And quite frankly, what we decided, given the nature of how we have to respond off duty for major incidents, we determined the best course of action for the department was to continue with although a bit dated, it works very, very well.
they're about $450 a piece. And our volunteers replaced the volunteers pagers. They did that a few years ago. We chose not because nobody in the career staff was really complaining. But now we have several career staff members that like, hey, my pager's broke or it's not working. That could be a convenient excuse for not showing up.
Well, that's interesting, just it cuts through. There's an app for that, but apparently
Yeah,
there isn't.
That's- Yeah,
there is, but it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work as well.
doesn't just buzz you out
Right.
right away. Well,
Single purpose.
I like it.
There was one other item I noted after I put together my comments in our budget where it went up in professional services. We budgeted $4,500 for a promotional process. Just when I took the promotion process before the fire chief, we would get some outside help. For the last several times, we've tried to manage that ourselves.
Okay.
We probably need a little bit of outside, so there's $4,500. I don't know that we'll use it this year. We have 2 deputy chiefs that have the potential to retire. They may not, but I think just in all fairness and to make sure there's no subjectivity involved in the
So
process,
it did for recruiting.
it would be good to have outside help
Yeah.
for our promotion.
And we would follow up with promotions. We would have to do a test for new hires as well to replace those.
Yes,
We
sure.
have we have 2 eligible, in the beginning of 23.
Okay.
One's been eligible for a long time, but.
Since 1978.
Yes.
It's not going anywhere. It's not going anytime soon. I thought, well,
But it's trying to get to that, to see it coming, so.
The budgeting for that is promotions, did I lose track of what?
That's not an expanded level, it's part of your operations, because you're gonna have you're gonna replace it with a deputy.
It accounts for a $4,500 increase in our.
If you're looking at line items, there's an increase of 4,500 due to the fact that we're gonna have
Yeah.
a promotional.
All right, thank you. I'd like to kind of specific service levels.
I'd like to address those line item budgets that stand out a little bit and say, hey, this is a
Oh, yeah.
40%, 50% increase over the previous year.
Thank you.
Since you're here, but we're not talking capital, anything you want to throw in about the fire training facility?
I really didn't prepare for that this evening. I mean, obviously, we're preparing for December 1st, and I think that'll be a fairly lengthy discussion. So if we could just keep it on the radar for that time, I think
Sure.
that'll keep us all moving forward. We will be better prepared.
Just want to make sure.
I don't see it on the capital improvement. Is it on there?
it's not, because it's in the capital improvement program. It's a 2024
Got it.
item.
Got it.
So that's why it's not included here.
Got it.
Based on the small group discussions we will talk about that during capital in December.
Mhm.
And for background, I just had a sidebar conversation with Commission President. I will provide the full group with the notes from our final meeting, because that sort of, I'll say, highlights everything that we discussed
Mhm.
to that point, along with gateways, renderings, cost estimates, and the frequently asked questions, for lack of a better description, information that was provided by the chief. So that the
Great.
commission will have the full benefit of that. I'll get that out this week
Okay,
so that you'll have it for the December discussion.
sounds good.
It's fine.
Yeah, so. This is probably better than what I was gonna do, so it's good. Had it right here, it's right.
And then we also have the emergency management, but it's fairly small. There's no increases in emergency management. There might even be minor decreases.
And
Keep up the good work.
well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say one thing on the small is the pandemic stock, do you want to talk about the pandemic stock at all? How we're just building that into making sure we have the stock. So we got the expanded during the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
We're now just keeping the stock up.
So instead of a
So
separate
now it's
line
part
item,
of it.
it's just part of
So you
it.
used to see an expanded pandemic supplies expansion level.
Yes.
Well, we stocked. Now we're just keeping the stock. So as we use, we replace.
Yeah.
They keep monitoring that, so that we didn't need the big influx to get it started. We kind of just had
What
it.
is that system?
So that consists of things like personal protective equipment, gloves, masks, gowns, that sort of thing for
Sure.
municipal employees to continue the operations of the municipality. We have stocked up, based on our experience with the coronavirus, we are stocked up for a pretty significant amount of time right now. Now, I will caution that the next wave may not be as kind to us as same kind. This is kind of a bit of a misnomer talking about coronavirus, but if there is something more significant or something more damaging, that may change, and that'll be a discussion at the time. But we feel like we're at this point, we're well positioned. Should we get another COVID type outbreak
Yeah.
again, to be able to keep the municipality running, to provide staff with the necessary tools and equipment to continue the operation.
Great.
Anything else?
Anything else you want us to know? Anything else?
Not particularly, no. I mean, you know, I made it, we're really excited. I mean, we just ran our 9 for Citizens Fire Academy.
Yeah, 9
As they
volunteers.
graduate, we've never had a class of 9.
Yeah.
It's a really quality, younger group that I think will do extremely well. And that'll put our numbers back to, I think we've been about as low as 37, 38 in my time here. Right now, we're at 40. That'll put us back to 49, and that's a really nice position to be in.
Yeah, the chief won't say it, but I will. You will see more and more departments that are moving to the model that we've had in place
Oh,
for
yeah.
years. With a combination of paid and volunteer, because they have to. The chief has become somewhat of a recognized expert on how you put that program in place. And when we went through the reaccreditation process, now this panel goes all over the country. They were extremely complimentary of our operation, the chief, his people, and one of the comments that kind of stuck with me is when they were going through the process and, you know, they're reviewing what we do, how we do it, who does it, all of those things.
Right.
They said it was almost impossible to tell who was a paid firefighter and who was a volunteer,
Very cool.
because there is no separation. They all work cohesively as one unit. And I think that's why we are so successful in attracting and retaining volunteers. So.
Yeah,
a lot of
and
credit
I think
goes to-
the support from local government, I mean, I think we take good care of them.
But it's also about workplace culture, which
Yes.
is lead.
There was a good culture there when I took over.
That's all right.
Yeah,
You continued it. You should-
exactly.
You should
Didn't
take
break it.
that little.
No.
Not being so shy, we're giving you compliments.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we want to break or do we want to continue on with police?
Great.
Break.
They don't need any.
That's why I put them after you this time.
We waiting for Commissioner Willard?
No, he's
I
not.
believe I will not be back.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity to present the budget for the Mount Lebanon Police Department in 2023. My counterpart is on a previously scheduled vacation. To be fair. But we collaborated in an effort to make the presentation as streamlined as we can for all of you, and we always appreciate the support that you can give. So thank you for that. So in 2023, the 2023 proposed budget to the manager represents a 2.8% increase in the 2022 budget. Most of that is increased due to contractual raises previously agreed upon through collective bargaining, in addition to some upgrades in training and software costs have continued to grow at a rate much higher than years past. And I'll talk about that as we get to those service levels and we move forward through it. So with that, starting with police administration, on page 64. We're currently requesting to be funded at a service level 3, which allows for a chief of police, a full-time police administrator. Currently, incidentally, Amy Kostolich will be retiring on December 16th, and we will be replacing Amy's position moving forward. And that role as the administrative assistant with the police department. This service level also allows for a deputy chief of operations, which oversees the operational needs of the police department as well as the training needs of the police department and overall day-to-day operation. Next, we have the deputy chief of support services, which oversees the fleet management, budgetary services, animal control, facility maintenance, software, and really everything outside of that day-to-day operation picture we see. And again, we'll talk more about the software piece as we move forward and get to the police support services. Next, moving through the police field services. Currently, we are requesting to be funded at a service level 4, which is our current service level, We provide for 4 single unit patrol officers, as well as a police lieutenant to oversee that operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That service level funding will again allow for that same level of patrol and response, as well as the level of service-oriented policing that our officers continue to give. As we move forward in the post-COVID policing, we have found that our officers have been tasked with a number of different really service-oriented tasks that they've been asked to provide, and they continue to do that. And while call volume has continued to get back up to pre-COVID levels, our level of work that our officers receive is still significant due to a number of different requests that we have, whether it's car seat installation or whether it's a tweener type of call. And I think that what we find is while the type of calls that we received, again, pre-COVID, is still we haven't reached a pre-COVID level. We still see a number of requests for service as we operate day to day.
If I'd known you did car seat install, I would have been on. the
Right?
phone.
It's a great service. I will tell you, it is one of the tasks that we really
No, we
gets a lot of, a lot of action. We have 3 officers currently trained.
So you do car seat install, no matter what kind of car seat it is, right? There we have it. Okay, got it.
Except for the one you bought.
That's
Yeah.
right. Boy,
So with that, police support services, so I mentioned earlier.
Hold on.
Before you move on, I just want to get a quick summary of 25, 50 words on how the automated license plate reader program is going. Yeah, I realize it's below the line, just as long as we're here.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
want to hear a little bit about how
So
things are
I'll
going.
tell you, so let me just back up a step. So our fixed ALPR system has now been transitioned from our previous vendor from PCS, which was sold to another vendor called Flock Safety, which is a player in the market. They're about a 4% market share. Motorola, for example, is about a 20% market share. Our mobile plate readers through the Motorola platform. So moving forward, there's an opportunity where we may be able to integrate both the mobile and the fixed. Again, that's a decision that's going through the Western Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police. We're taking that as a collaborative approach. We have 2,800 cameras on that system. We obviously have a much, we bargained from a position of strength with 2,800 cameras as opposed to our 8 intersections. The mobile platform has been very successful for a number of reasons. The plate collection is really something that we are just about tapping into now, where it's starting to yield some results investigatively. The real-time response from our officers has yielded one wanted suspect that was stopped in traffic and a number of different ancillary calls that we were able to sort of work through just based off the results of the ALPR. So I can say that we've been very satisfied with the ALPR system. The parking component has been very successful. The read rates are still proving over 90%, which is a significant increase from previous years. Years ago, the technology was somewhere in the 70% percentile range, and in about 5 years, it really jumped to 90% at a speed of normal driving and up to 55. Our fixed plate readers that you see are reading at 90% at 100 miles an hour. And they are really, the technology says advanced and literally in the last 18 months that the cameras have really come a long way in a short time. So we're very happy with it. And it's a program that's been a game changer. I can tell you that ALPR in and of itself is probably the best thing to come down for law enforcement in the last 50 years.
Now, you mentioned, I realize I'm jumping ahead to the next
Yes.
segment here. Did you mention fixed cameras as opposed to the LPR? So are you kind of tying into these items in the next segment that are below the line, the surveillance cameras? Is that still something that is something you're interested in, or as you mentioned, the fixed versus the mobile cameras, maybe there's a change in
Well,
focus
I'll
now?
tell you, so the fixed cameras, because the fixed cameras, we've had a much greater success rate in utilizing. For reasons because they collaborate with other agencies. If you're in Dormont, if you're anywhere within the district attorney network, you tap in and you see that that car went through our intersection. So there's more people on those systems, and so they're utilized at a much greater rate. The mobile platform is beginning to be utilized at a higher rate. However, it's going to be a process to get there. I will tell you that we have one intersection, really, Gilkison and Cedar is probably
Yeah.
the next intersection that we would use on the back end of town, if you will.
That's on the list, yeah.
And so that would be something that, again, we can always utilize those resources. I will say that they don't go unnoticed in the ALPR fixed system.
I'm gonna ask that service level 3 be noted.
And that's fine. There's a reason that I didn't add those, or one of them was because of some of the changes.
Yeah, that
that,
he's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. The chief was talking about.
Mhm.
And I wanted to sort of see how that was gonna play out, because that could potentially affect our cost.
Mhm.
We can add it.
Exactly, and that's something we don't know. It's I will say this, and just to the manager's point, our previous vendor was well below market value. Hence the reason why they sold, because they weren't profitable.
Sure.
So they were a startup, they really got volume, they concentrated their business model where they contracted the physical mechanical services of cameras. Their volume increased, they sort of sold that widget, that piece to their mechanical service, delivery folks. And now they got so big that they weren't able to sustain their business model, they sold to Block. And for that reason, once the new price point comes out, it will be multiple times higher than previous. However, it's still, from a market perspective, going to be well within the market range. It's just something we're not used to. So that's what the chiefs are going through right now from a collective. It's sort of that sticker shock and working through that, saying, okay, can, Duquesne's of the world afford it, as well as Lebanon of the world, sort of how can we make this all work for everybody? So we're getting a lot of good responses from vendors and a number from Motorola, as well as from Block and others that are pitching to us. So I think that we'll be pretty successful in getting some type of agreement at the very least for the next 2 years, and then it'll be an incremental increase. So
Okay, good, that's helpful. So the number 3 service level, community-based surveillance camera, was that last year's cost, which we don't think is current, for $20,000 for one camera?
We don't know what the cost at this point. but
Right.
yes, it is-
That was last year's
That's
cost.
correct.
One camera
It was 17 and change per intersection.
per intersection.
but it's like the 4 cameras.
4 cameras. Not a big one.
One intersection.
4
That's four
cameras, one
cameras.
Cameras.
See where everybody's going. Okay, so one intersection.
LPR, 2 LPR and 2. Yeah.
And then there's an annual ongoing.
Yeah.
cost
We pay
Yeah.
yeah,
Maintenance.
pay about $2,000 a year in internet costs
Okay,
per intersection, plus any, the maintenance that's part of
Right.
the contractual maintenance, plus any repairs that then come on the cameras.
so,
They're sitting outside all day, every day. Windstorms, ice storms, you name it.
Yep.
Those are all within the police support services budget as well. Can I add something here? Since Jason and I and the team had really, couple things. One, there is a memo on the SharePoint site that outlines all the effectiveness of the ALPR. This was not done by me, this was done by Corporal Nolte, Mark McMonigal, who's parking enforcement, and Mark Quealy, who's the parking enforcement supervisor. So it combines not only the 3 patrol cars that it was put on, but also the parking vehicle, and it also has the backup data for increase in ticket data, all those different types of things. So it gives you some anecdotes and some data behind what we're seeing. So I will want to point that out. The second thing is that I do want to bring your attention. I know that we're already jumping ahead to service level 3 of community-based surveillance cameras. Something we have talked about as staff that wasn't mentioned is that for service level 5 under police field services for automated license plate readers,
Yeah.
what we're going to start to find is that next year, if you want patrols, every car to be using it so that you hop in a car and it's frontline patrol,
Right.
there's going to be a car that doesn't have it. Because there's downtime in getting these cars upfitted. And so we're going to start to see, if we don't have 6, you're going to start to see where you hop in a car and 3 of our frontline vehicles don't have it, which they do right now, right? 3 of our cars don't have it. are frontline and 3 do. So they're two different setups. And I know you weren't here for this, but our goal was to eventually get 6. So that all frontline vehicles have ALPR on them.
Because we have 6 cars patrolling per.
Correct,
shift.
there'd be 5 in, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 in frontline patrol and 1 in traffic safety.
Well, yes.
That was the original goal, was to get there.
And that's how we would assign it. Now, there's a potential to have a patrol officer working without the ALPR, even at 6. However, the likelihood most of the time is 6 will cover your core patrol service function. So we have 11 marked patrol cars. However, like finance director said, the 6 will get us 90% of the time coverage.
It'll be on the newest vehicles we have, which are patrolling the most. Right, so there'll be a period of time where if you had all 6, the 3 new ones come in that we get every year to replace within the fleet. The 3 new ones come in, we're gonna have to take those 3 older ones that are now 3 years old and place them on the new one. So there'll be a period of downtime, maybe a week, 2 weeks. But the idea was to eventually get to maximize the reads within the community to be on the frontline vehicles the most. So I just want to make sure that's pointed out that if that's not funded, we're gonna next year be 3, further back. And with technology, as you know, the more we buy up front, we can start to see some of the technological advances. So one of the things we found was waterproofing these cameras. One of the reasons it took us so long to get up and running was the model we bought did not have the best waterproofing, but the newer ones do. So if we bought them today, they're going to be a newer model that we may not struggle as much getting them up and running as we did, because we had a lot of cameras burning out, so on and so forth. So those types of things. So I'm just trying to point that out there. That's part of this piece. I think to Commissioner Silverman was saying, they're together.
Right.
And trying to enhance the re-rate to the community.
Is there, I mean, as we see in purchasing, computer chips, and how much of that is impacting not just, you said the company being purchased, but just the automakers trying to get computer chips and so forth? How much of that is going to impact pricing and whatnot? To your point, when's the right time to wait until you get the waterproof cameras, to wait to say chips are more available, but does that have some negative on the other side? But just, right now, the price of computer chips is going up like crazy.
Well, and to that point, I recently attended the IACP conference in Dallas, and I got a chance to speak with the Motorola rep from the facility, which isn't far from Dallas, it's in Texas. And that's where we ordered our parts from. And one of the things they did mention is a lot of the specials they're running right now on their products are for that reason. They know that the upgrades are coming right behind it. They recognize product delivery, they've gotten caught up. For a minute there, they weren't really anywhere close. We had ordered our product in February 1st, or maybe January 1st, I should say. As soon as our budget was approved, we were able to, and we didn't receive our cameras until the end of summer. And so that was a really significant lag time. We expect that to be within 90 days, according to Motorola reps, moving forward. And they recognize too that the upgrade in the camera is coming so quickly that they are building that into the price point in terms of the upgrade of the equipment. They recognize if you buy it at this rate, they're building in that point that they will upgrade the cameras as they go along. So they recognize that's something that people are going to switch to other vendors and competitors should they not keep up.
So I
Go
think
ahead.
the most important thing you said that I heard was that if we funded 6, essentially had 6 of these automated license plate readers, gives us 90% coverage.
And probably greater than that, but again, the point of downtime, maintenance,
Okay,
again, upfit, we allow for that 10% window to say.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, you're gonna have an LPR camera on the road, on 4 of those on the road for patrol, short of any unforeseen mechanical issues, so.
And right now we have 3.
Great, correct.
3. And so service level 5 is just 1 more for $40,000.
So
Oh,
That says one.
provides for
Says
1
one.
ALPR system, the last sentence.
Yeah, I read as one as well.
I'd have to look at
You
that.
would know the
That should be-
price.
that should be two.
Awesome, I like that back now. I want a flat back. We get 2 for 40, so they're 20 each.
Yeah, I think that's under that contract. I think.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, yeah, they're
We
running.
might actually be able to get 3.
So then we're up to 5.
We might actually
Depending
get
on-
6 because they're running 2 for 1 specials right now, but. that's-
We don't know yet, yeah.
Sure they are.
As
So
a
it-
point of reference, I would think that, once we're like at capacity with these,
Mhm.
right, we have what we need. At some point, this is a question of, this is the standard automobile that we use.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That has these things on it.
Right.
Correct.
So it's built in.
And that's what I was
Here's what it
trying
costs.
to say,
Yeah.
is that a patrol officer could get into a different
Right.
vehicle every shift, potentially, if you don't do that.
Right.
But, and so I think for me, it's from a budgetary perspective, I'm just gonna bake this into the cost of the,
Yes.
Yes.
In the future, that's correct.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's just getting that to current
Getting it there.
is to get it
Okay.
there.
Thank you.
To start, so I'll give you an example. So we started this with our Axon cameras at the front end of the, for the body cameras. So that was a big upfront cost, and that's baked into this budget that you're gonna see in support services, is that we pay $28,000 a year for all the evidence.com behind it.
Okay.
And it's a 5-year baked in, but to get to that first level was an expanded level in the budget. To say, okay,
Yeah.
it's gonna be 60, I think it was 63, 65,000 the first year. And then it's gonna be 28,000 a year for the next 4 years. That will be baked into your current level if you fund it now. That's what that's trying.
Okay.
So sorry for the that should say.
Forgive the, it's a bit of denseness here. Earlier you had said there's a better success rate with the fixed cameras, however, everything's in flux.
Right.
So given the
Let me-
dollar,
Let me interrupt that. Not better success rate. There's more data collaboration right now because of the way it was originally set up.
right,
So it's not better read rate per se, in fact, the actual camera, what your
Share.
data you're getting, it's just who you're sharing it with.
right, but or arrests per image, whatever
More people
metric,
viewing.
whatever
it.
That's right.
metric we're using here. The question is still that, at one point I heard, well, the APR is kind of beginning stages, the other one's in a more mature stage, more integration, more use. Trying to figure which is the best bang for the buck.
If we can only have one.
Yeah,
which
that's
we
what I'm
want.
trying, that's why I
Yeah.
suggested the one, because, that's getting more utilization, but to Andrew's point about going, well, as you said, 2 for 1, we could get to 5 or 6 units. Which,
Well,
if
the
you had to
Hartwell,
pick one, which one would you pick?
So they're kind of two different animals, because there's a parking component that we've obviously utilized the LPR for patrol, which is a significant benefit from an efficiency standpoint. So one of our goals of the past year, and what we'll continue to in 23, is shrinking the hardware footprint in those vehicles. And to Commissioner President Flynn's point about our standardization, our software footprint got too big. And we were using several different platforms that officers were required to log into just to do their job. We recognize that. So we have a new record management system that we piggyback with the county at no cost to us. It's under a Central Square system, which is a major player in the game. That continued to be upgraded to the point now that we can write non-traffic citations through our RMS system, which had never been done before. So the idea is when you get into your police car, you log into 2, maybe 3 systems, as opposed to 6, maybe 7, 18 months ago. So that software footprint's been shrunk, and then the hardware footprint as well, with the LPR being able to utilize the parking system to integrate into that. So our officers have to do less to do more and to be more efficient. And so moving forward, we recognize with sort of everything came in and the various vendors picked up a number of things. And we recognize that we had to sort of bring that under one umbrella. And we continue to do that. It's a work in progress. And I'll say that, we'd love to get to a point where you could have an officer do a single sign on and log into 2 different systems, and they're good to go. Because then they're more apt to go out, and if they have to stop a car or stop a person, they don't have to log into multiple different fronts just to do their job. So we need to recognize that to do their job, we need to make it more efficient. So on the back end, that's a big effort for us to make that occur. And so a lot of the software is really, again, at these vendor shows and conferences, it's really probably 70% of the vendor show. Where it used to be more, we call it Velcro and the shiny thing, where now, it's now really a software heavy industry and for reasons that we're not even talking about right now,
I mean, I like the idea, the efficiency that our officers don't have to spend so much time signing on to the various, 6 versus 2 or whatever. Does this, selecting the automated license plate reader, does it solve that problem?
Well, it helps. It helps because on the mobile platform, it's consistent. And so then the consistency is better. And so it helps to have everything the same that you do the same, no matter what vehicle you're patrolling. So I think from a muscle memory standpoint, it does help.
That's evidence-based design. You should be able to get into a cop car and it should look the same, no matter which cop car you're in. Everything's in the same place. Same thing you do in hospitals. It's
Isn't that
much
logic?
more efficient.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
much safer. It protects everybody better. It's really.
It's easier for
it's the
training.
gold standard. Yeah, no, it's really what you should do. You don't want to
So
make it difficult.
did we get an answer to
Yeah,
Steve's
well,
question?
thank
about-
you.
So, I mean, to answer your
Which
question,
one?
I mean, I would say, reality is more fun. If we have one more intersection, pretty much have Mount Lebanon
Covered.
covered.
Yeah.
I will say that. So we know that the back end of town, that one intersection we have that I mentioned, the only intersection that we really don't have.
From Washington Road, you can get out of town without being seen on camera.
Otherwise, I will
I'm
say.
going that way.
So it's kind of a, but the mobile platform offers us a ton of opportunity. We continue to get, it's gonna continue to build, it's gonna
Right.
continue to be utilized by a number of different agencies. So I guess, if you're asking which one would be more utilized, I mean, look, eventually, if you drove on Gilbertson Road, you'd be covered by fixed LPR at some point. So, I mean, I guess the mobile platform would probably be a good thing. for
You
us.
didn't have the price of the community-based surveillance. That's what I.
We don't know.
We're in flux there.
You're
that's
in
correct.
flux. So we don't have any idea.
I see.
This one, we have
Yeah,
a shot at knowing what it is. Right,
2 for 1, maybe.
2 for 1,
Yeah,
maybe.
we have a quote from 2 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me. You find the one that we feel we can predict.
So am I hearing that we want to put,
Number
item
5.
number 5
Yes.
under police field services on the discussion?
Yes.
But I think also the other one, knowing,
Yeah, they'll both be.
yeah, but
Okay, so they're both-
we have a priority.
I mean, I certainly, as I live there, I
Yeah.
see the sheer amount of traffic on Cedar Boulevard and just the opportunity for that scofflaw being seen because there's just so many cars on that road. But recognizing we have a finite amount in the budget, obviously if we do both, awesome. So why don't we just put, number 5 and number 3 on the list? And see where we wind up.
Sounds good. Okay. So
Investigative.
with that investigative, so one of the things you'll see currently, we're requesting to maintain service level 5, which allows for a general investigator, allows for a second investigator who specializes in our evidence custodian process, which really is integral to our operations. As you know, the food corporal gave you a presentation on accreditation. And that evidence process is really, a heavy linchpin, and not only that process, but really any police department that's successful. So
Right.
that's something we rely heavily on. Our number 3, the juvenile detective, and then our lieutenant assigned to the unit, as well as our drug detective. Currently, our drug detective is integrated in with a HIDA, which is a high intensity drug trafficking area task force through the Allegheny County Police, which operates in the area. It's the only HIDA in the Western District of Pennsylvania. He really is hemmed into the know of what's going on with narcotic trafficking as well as the trend, and gets called as regularly by the county police to participate in a number of operations. So it's integral to us as far as situational awareness, as well as maintaining the trend. When you don't have it every day here, it's good to be hemmed in, and really the value we get from that is significant. We will see an increase in our training costs for 2023. Some of that has to do with the ISU unit. What we've noticed over the past number of years is we had mentioned that some of our crime trends currently is our victimization of residents through social media and computer online platforms. That's something that hasn't changed, but it's actually increased. We aren't at any higher rate than any other municipality. However, what you're seeing is we have an elderly population that obviously is something we're susceptible to, but everybody's susceptible to it nowadays. So to investigate that, we do need to recognize that we have to bolster our training and our capabilities. One of those is our video forensics opportunities. So when we process ring cameras and we process other media type, that we can testify to it, that this is unadulterated footage, and this footage came from this, and it is in fact this individual. What's going on right now is the shared services that are utilized with Allegheny County, the FBI, and others is being utilized by those 109 police departments we continue to mention. And so if you're not high on that priority list, typically you're not getting a subject matter expert to come and testify on your behalf to say that this is unadulterated footage. So for that reason, we've built in some video forensic training for one of our detectives. Again, the battery of classes runs from a level 1 to a level 4 to be an expert. And what we've recognized is we've got to bolster our ability to speak to that at a little higher level. And so that's what you're going to see on that training cost increase as you see that on the list. So that's something that is a trend that, again, we need to sort of increase our abilities and threats and the crime trends change that we've seen over the last number of years. So,
What number is that?
I'm sorry,
Is that number 4?
That's not.
it's not on there. But you'll see it's a reflection of the training.
Yeah.
increase. Yeah, the
He
training
mentioned
increase.
earlier,
Yeah.
cost increases, it's specific, one of the specific reasons is for IS.
Correct.
I've already sat through the spiel.
So as we move forward, any questions on ISU, we're good. So as we move forward with traffic safety, current service levels provides for Lieutenant of Traffic Safety, who currently Lieutenant Green, who I'm sure you've all met on your various boards and authorities. He served a real critical role for us and our police administration and assisting with the day-to-day operations and continue to educate and inform the public on traffic safety rules. He will have 2 officers assigned in 2023 to provide traffic safety as well as, again, informing and educating the public on targeted traffic safety areas that we get, or any number of things that come across, whether it's assisting crossing guards with any traffic pedestrian safety type measures, really educating the public on a number of fronts. And so we've moved really from an enforcement posture to more of an education and informed posture over the last year, and we'll continue to do that moving forward in 2022. So we come to our community outreach unit. Community outreach is currently staffed by, again, Corporal Jeff Kite, who you know well, and we'll, in 2023, he'll get his partner back, and we'll give him an officer, again, once staffing levels return. And with that, he does about 600, they do about 600 presentations a year at age appropriate levels in the schools. Everything from second grade tours on to internet safety to social media and on up to decision-making prior to leaving high school and going to college. Part of the community outreach unit is our school resource officer, Officer Brian Henley. He has done a tremendous job becoming really an integral part of the high school and in their vernacular. And he's asked for on a number of fronts, whether it's at their civic classes to come in and speak about law or speak about decision making, again, at their orientation or prior to graduating, where he really talks to them about, hey, the difference between making it or not is really one decision away, and that's really something they lean heavily on him for. So with that, our SRO, as part of our community outreach unit, will continue to fund that. Another function, part of that unit, is our accreditation process, which you know well. And that's something that we'll continue to utilize our police administration function to build into that, to continue to that continuity. As I mentioned in our presentation, the one thing after being accredited that we know is that it is a heavy lift. It's a lot of work. It's something that in order to continue, we're gonna have to have some help from our police admin folks. And that will be our records folks as well as our new replacement for Amy Constable. Will be built in to keep that continuity going. We have a plan to make that happen, so it's not relying on one individual to keep that going. Questions on that?
So community outreach is 3 total people,
Yes, including us, yeah.
including SRF. Okay.
School crossing protection, again, that, as you know, that provides for Sharon Croner currently as the crossing guard supervisor, and she has 41 posts, really considered 44, but 41 posts that were staffed regularly for the school day, and a couple that are twice a day. So as well, during one time. So with that, school crossing, service levels, again, remain the same as this year.
Okay, so same, yeah, same as current as what's recommended. I noticed this year there was sometimes when there weren't crossing guards available and some intersections weren't covered. That's staffing issue taken care of now, or?
Leveled out. So the staffing for crossing guard this year was sort of a local phenomenon. We received, through the public information office, we received a number of requests for comment on crossing guard staffing. It seemed to be something that really was a shortage locally,
Okay.
not only here, but in the area. We have since gotten to a point where we're staffing all the posts. We had a number of police officers covering posts, I'm sure you saw.
Yes.
And so that's something that we don't need to do currently. That was for a period of about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. It was something that we had to do on a day-to-day basis. We worked with the school to come up with contingency plan to really prioritize those posts. And to say, okay, if it's something that is near a school that only services 2 children, this is something that we can maybe have one of the school personnel assist us with if they're on site. So we work together on a plan should that staffing level fall again. But right now we're good to go.
Is this cost split with the school district? Am I
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It used to be. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes. And do you feel like this is a good level, or would you recommend that service level 3 enhancing?
Well, I'll tell you, I think the service level we have now is effective. I think the request we get to review post, there's a good process in place through Lieutenant Green and then Supervisor Stoner to evaluate those, and then the process of evaluation that goes on. And so I can say that right now, I mean, based off everything I know, it's a service level.
The amount of work the supervisor does, we would know if there's more, there would be somebody sitting here right now telling you that we need this post.
Right.
But they're not. I think we're good. I mean, she's out there. If you haven't seen her, you've seen her.
Yeah.
Yes, if you don't know that you've seen her. She's there all the time.
Covering, yeah.
Level of pride that she takes in our children is fantastic. So.
And more often than not, quite honestly, we struggle to staff the level that's funded. It's not a matter of
Right.
we need additional people. It's trying to find
Find people to do it.
staff to the level. that's
Yeah.
The dollars we have, the people we don't.
Correct. Right.
Let's split shift.
It's not an easy job.
No, it's not
I
an
did
easy
it for
job.
2 years. If you're out in all kind of weather.
Yeah, all kind of weather.
Yeah. Distracted driving.
Those darn teenagers, you know, little brats.
What'd you call them?
Little brats. Yeah, well, those are the little ones. Kind of nice, but those teenagers, they walk right out. It's gonna hit me. Mhm.
With that, we have our animal control division is our next service we provide under the police department. Currently staffing level provide for 5 animal control officers and supervisors. That service is provided from 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night during the week. And on the weekends, it's provided from 7 o'clock in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And in the summer months, 8 to 4. With that, it provides a efficient and effective level of service to our cooperative. We seem to get a lot of good results and really a lot of good accolades for other municipalities and other partners. We go to the shared service before shared service is control. So I'd like to say that we were sort of first to the game. We in the eighties when it was something that was just spoken about, it was something that was really done here, so it's definitely better than a cap.
Yeah.
Full pun intended.
What is the net cost for Mount Lebanon?
$160,560. Service level one. Yep, we build that, so. If you took everything away, we'd be at 160. Supervisor and one. patrol ones.
That's based on calls per service, right? We do that every year. We have an annual meeting.
Yeah. Of all the total volume, we're between 70 and 74%. 70 to 74% is covered by other municipalities.
We offer a lot more services to our residents from our other participating communities.
And just one note this year, to another point that Commissioner Flynn made, is baking in those costs of things that we've seen that we've had additional funding is every odd year. So every numerical odd
Yeah.
calendar year, we see an increase in the animal control budget. It's because we're rebuilding the kennels, which have been around for 20 to 25 years on some of these trucks. So we're getting brand new kennels.
Okay.
So they're very expensive. They're upwards of 50 to 60,000 bucks a piece to sit on the back of the chassis, on top of the chassis. So those are in the budget. That's in this year's budget. We plan for that as part of the budget that we send out to the other communities. So we pay as we build and do an escrow and do all those things. But that's what that increase of $40,000 primarily is
Okay.
to that truck
Okay.
upfits that we're doing there as well, just to let you know. That was a need that we saw back in 2019. Then Acting Chief Haberman really got hired as one of the first things, kind of programs he was integral as a part, saying, hey, we should probably do this every other year. So
Uh-huh.
that's,
Worked out.
yeah, it's worked out. So
I've always had some questions on how animal control operates, but you guys wouldn't know, so I'll ask.
You
animal
would know.
control.
Yeah.
All right, I'm super short. So if there's a lost dog, they'll catch a lost dog and then they'll put it in their kennel and then they'll do what?
So they keep it for a period of 10 days.
Okay,
We
perfect.
feed it, we house it,
Uh-huh,
we, during that time, will attempt identification efforts through various social media. Usually 98% of the time, it's unified, it's united with the owner.
Sure.
Very rarely on the times that we don't find the owner. Typically, there's a number of services that will take the dog.
okay,
Horror, humane animal
Yeah.
rescue, and we vet that very carefully. We don't just arbitrarily take the dog or the cat and give it to anybody.
here's the morbid ones. What about a dead pet on the side of the road?
Well, I'm sorry.
What happens to those?
So they're obviously removed
Uh-huh.
from the scene. And then they'll use their chip readers, which
Just
will
scan it.
to discover, attempt
Uh-huh.
to locate the owner as well, to notify the owner. And then obviously, as best they can to, manage that situation and obviously.
And if there's no chip,
When again, if there's no
And-
chip, you're gonna just
Yeah.
put it out.
I'll be honest with you, because our dog went to jail once.
Nice example, you
And
said,
she is chipped.
but Peggy migrated.
It was a different generation chip.
Uh-huh.
It was a newer generation chip reader.
Oh, there you go.
oh,
So I was fortunate because a lot of people know me.
yeah.
I made a phone call and they said, oh yeah, what is she? It's a black lab. Yeah, we think we have her. So my daughter and I had to go get her out of jail.
Oh,
Okay, huh?
But yeah, so it is important to chip your dog, but it's not foolproof.
it's not foolproof, no.
But it's very helpful. And again, as Deputy Chief Haberman mentioned, the outreach that we do through social media.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
usually
It's very effective.
very successful in finding.
well, the cooperating police departments are very helpful.
Yeah, everyone puts it on a page and really, somebody knows.
There's a network
Yeah.
here. There-
Yeah, sure.
Right, and actually, the manager's point, Supervisor Fredley requested 2 additional chip readers that are updated, that can read multiple types
Nice.
of chips.
Oh,
So
that's nice. yeah.
that's something we continue to upgrade, so that's a big part of our increase in that actual equipment on.
Thank you.
Incidentally. So thank you, again, thank you all for the support and the continued support. We appreciate it, and we continue to operate with what we need because of the decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Next, we're going to the library, page 53.
Looks like a short one.
My board treasurer, Martha Taylor, is sitting here around 8 o'clock, so I imagine he'll be coming in anytime.
I had a schedule. Look at us.
I know, very.
Very diplomatic.
It's because of all of your. Honestly, it's because of Terry, we all know that.
It's true.
First of all, I
She's
just.
trying to be
She has sent the right people to butter.
We wore the same color.
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to thank you all, not only for being here and listening to me, but for all of your support for our library. As you know, we are part of the Allegheny County Library Association. There are 46 library systems in this county. And the stories I've heard from other municipal libraries, I know how lucky we are to be so well supported by our community. So I just wanted to make sure that you get my appreciation first thing. I'm just going to go over some brief highlights of what we've done this year. And then for your benefit, I'm going to do just a very quick rundown of how our library is budgeted.
Okay.
So we've had a really great year coming back from COVID. We are really almost getting back to pre-pandemic levels of service. We had a sold out Immortals speaker series event this summer, or spring rather, with over 1,000 people in attendance. We had the garden tour return. It was, we limited the number of tickets because some of the gardeners were a little nervous, but again, that event sold out and we netted about $15,000 in donations from that, as well as about $6,000 from our spring plant sale. We had over 1,500 people, children, teens, and adults registered for the summer reading program. And we returned our concerts in the courtyard. We also debuted the library book bike and cart, which I'm sure you've all seen the pictures.
Who's that?
He was very intelligent, but
That's a good model, you see.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The book bike has been so much fun. We really enjoyed getting out to all of the different events. We took it to Relay for Life, to First Friday, farmers markets. We took it to the Rock the Block parties, the Touch a Truck, all that kind of thing. We were really able to get out in the community in a way we never really had before, just because it draws so much attention and the kids really enjoyed it and the families. So that was a lot of fun. We resumed our school visits this year. I don't know how many of you know this, but our children's librarians make an effort to visit every first grade classroom in the school district during the month of September to get all of the kids signed up for library cards. So we were able to go back to visiting the schools this
My
year.
first grader has fun.
Yeah, they get a little, they're called critter visits. They use a little worm. There's a book, a critter book about a little worm. And they get to bring, Ian can probably tell you about it. They bring critter, their little bookmark into the library and they get a special prize if they get a free book. They're visiting the library and everything like that. So we were really excited to have that connection with schools back this year. We are celebrating our 90th anniversary this year, and we've been kind of doing that in a low-key way all year because we plan to have a really big blowout in 10 years for 100. But we really love the story of our library. It started as such a community effort, and it continues to be a community effort. The Lions Club decided we needed a library. They sent Boy Scouts around to gather a bunch of books. They created a board based on all the local community groups and just started the library. So, and it's still today awesome because of the community support we get.
Are you still selling those 90th birthday shirts? You got them
Yes,
locked
we
in
are.
there?
We are.
Okay.
Right now they're $15, but if you come to Yola Book of Flood on the 19th, they'll be on sale for get a discount.
Whoa, watch out.
I'll wait till the 93rd year and.
That last year's model really, really.
That's right, right.
Cause I,
We're continuing to eliminate barriers to access. Last year, we officially eliminated late fines at the library. We hadn't collected them since COVID began. And because of the way the libraries are doing automatic renewals and up to 6 renewals for each item, our fine revenue dwindled to practically nothing anyway. So this was something that we could easily eliminate and, you know, take away that fear of owing the library and not feeling welcome. So we're all about making the library feel welcome. And we've also worked very hard to help people kind of recover from COVID and all the stress and trauma. We've spent our year really focusing on mental health and wellness initiatives. So we have a program funded in part by Matt's Makerspace and in partnership with Outreach Teen and Family Services called Shine at Mount Lebanon Public Library, where we've done mental and emotional health and wellness programs all year long for all ages. We have programs for little kids, we have mental health Mondays for teens, and we've had some programs for adults through the year, and that's been a great success. So we're going to continue with that.
Robin, if I may, at that stopping point, I realize it's part of the outreach budget, but you brought the topic where they asked for additional funds, provide pre-programming in partnership with Mount Lebanon Public Library for middle school students during after school time. Can you kind of provide is that part of that programming, or is there
Yes.
different programming that's part of that?
Most of the programming with the teens has been the mental health Mondays, and that's where they have a counselor come down to the library and actually meet in a room with the teens. I've seen as many as 10 to 15 in there. And they just talk about, I think, coping strategies and just ways to, you know, build your confidence and feel safe, and how to take care of each other as teenagers, because you know how cutthroat that can be sometimes. So it's really, it's a lot of, I think a lot of it's about coping strategies and to help teens succeed and feel safe and confident.
And that's that program.
Yes, and it's been excellent. She's actually talking about working with other libraries to replicate it in other areas. So
Nice.
it's been a really big success.
That's
for us.
popular.
Yes.
and I will state that one of the reasons it's not funded is it's below the line in outreach is because they haven't requested the funds back from us. So we haven't spent any of the money we dedicated this year or the prior year. They haven't billed us for it yet. So same thing with the MLPD. I know that and Mary Burks can talk about that when she presents, but you know, it's been successful, but it's not maybe the levels we were funding dollar value wise that maybe we were thinking at one point. So just, it's not, the program's not happening. You know, it's happening now, and there'll be some carryover funds that you'll see and so on and so forth as we move forward.
So as I said, we are getting some funds for that program from Matt's Makerspace from Noel. But yeah, I know they didn't have some of the program. Like we were planning to start this right pretty much when COVID hit. Like we were starting to meet and talk about it at that point. So I know a lot of our initial plans were derailed there. And I think they tried to do some things last year, and with the different waves of COVID and, you know, go to masking or not masking. So I think some things kind of got shifted off course there, but the program has been very successful this calendar year. So that's pretty much what we've been doing this year. We're looking forward to next week to our 90th anniversary. At 7 p.m. on the 15th, Judy Sutton is doing a special program about the history of our library. So if you can make it, I really appreciate that. That was great. Our board meeting has been moved up to 6 o'clock, and we will be hosting a special guest. Our Allegheny County Library Association Board President, Leah Kahn, is going to visit. And then on Saturday, the 19th, we're having our Yola Book of Flood holiday market is returning, and we're doing it up in a big way this year with live music and artists and all kinds of fun stuff going on all day long. So
What's the date for that again?
the 19th.
19th, okay.
Yes. So as far as the library's budget, and it basically, we're not 100% funded by the municipality. We're not completely a department in that way. The Mount Lebanon provides about 70% of our funding. They provide the building and all of the maintenance and operation of the building itself, and a lot of that falls under the public works budget. So it's listed as in kind on our state report, and they provide about 60%, right, for operating, which is primarily staff costs. The regional asset district provides about 15% of our funding, and we get about 7% from the state and state table gaming funds. This is all in the annual report I gave you last week as well.
Right.
And then the rest of our money is donations, copier costs, you know, very
Sure.
little bit there, but
Yeah.
It is important to note that our friend the library is one of the most amazing organizations that I've ever had the privilege to work with. They provide on average about $80,000 a year to the library.
Wow.
They provide nearly
They're
all of our
they're
programming.
fantastic, and you're going to be, and you're now on the library board, right? You're picking up that.
Yes.
Each your future liaison.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, we've met.
we talked last week, yes.
So 80,000, what percentage is that? You know,
With the overall budget.
80,000.
I'm an English major. I was
5%.
2.5, yeah, it's all, like the whole other line, which includes donations, is 8%.
Okay.
So, yeah, they provide pretty much all of our programming, and they provide special extras like the book bag.
Okay.
They provide subscriptions to Hot Title, like Hot Titles of books and AV that we like kind of rent to, so that we have extra copies when they're new and popular.
Sure.
Hot titles.
Hot
Ah,
Titles, yeah.
Titles, I love that. Titles.
And then,
So they were extra copies of the budget. They made us one.
of course.
Title.
I knew that. Oh, yeah.
Andrew will be in the lobby autographing.
We'll put you there, you can open for Colson Whitehead.
Yeah. Open for goals. I did.
I have no idea what that is, but okay.
Such a literary guy.
It's okay, he's got the thing. I can't do what he does. So, in short, our library, the municipality funds our library at one of the highest rates in the county.
Yeah.
And it really shows in what we're able to offer our patrons and our community. And one of the things that I've been talking to the commission about the last couple of years is our e-resources. And this is last year's.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, I gave everyone that last year, so you should also have it, but I can always send you another copy. But all I did this year was an update to that report that I gave you last year. Because it was like 60 pages, and something I didn't want to completely redo the whole thing. So I'm talking about e-resources specifically because in our narrative, that last line item is broken out as the e-resources appropriation.
Sure.
$15,000. That's below the line.
$15,000. And that is roughly, that's about half of what we have lost from our other funding sources this year. So I know, Mindy, that you said, and heard me talk at length about RAD. Basically, we got a big increase from the state, but the state is about, you know, half of what we're getting,
Yeah.
third of what we're getting from RAD, and a big decrease from RAD. So it turns out to be about a $33,000 loss from those two sources combined. And anyway, that's about, you know, what we've asked for in the past for an extra e-resources allocation. And this little paper I just gave you is just kind of just to let you know how our e-resources collection budget and circulation is trending and what we do with our e-resources budget. We spend a lot on our county allocation. All 46 libraries, including CLP, which provides a lot, collectively put money together to purchase, I know, to purchase e-resources for the entire county. And because we create a formula to determine how we divvy up our chunk after CLP pays money and the RAD pays money towards e-resources. And because we spend so much in our collection and because our circulation is so high, we have a pretty big chunk of that budget. So it's becoming more and more of a higher percentage of our e-resources budget. You know, when I first started here, it was about $5,000 for the year. And next year, we're looking at paying over $60,000. It's just risen exponentially, the amount of money we're paying every year. It's going to be about half of our e-resources collection budget.
Robin, I was gonna ask you, and Marshall Taylor's now arrived, that the ask is about that much, about $64,000 in this year, because over last year. It almost looks like a dollar for dollar, that's why.
I think it's really just a coincidence. The way we work our budget out is Andrew figures out how much our staff costs are and sends it to me. And then we kind of work out the rest of the budget with the RAD and the state added in as far as our collection budget and that kind of thing. So most of our increase in cost is going towards staffing.
Any additional staff added? You mentioned staffing going up. What would be driving staff cost up?
Benefits.
Okay.
We haven't increased any of our full-time staff. We still have 11 full-time staff members. I'm struggling to keep enough part-time circulation clerks to keep the library going. It's I think everybody's having those struggles.
So as a reminder for commission, so the library is the only department within the municipality that has its own fund. Right, so it has its own reserves, which are close to $200,000. Right, so there's a fund reserve there, and things we did. So to Robin's point, yes, I give them numbers there. They come together. They submit a budget back to us. We then say, okay, we're going to then supply this amount, and this is what they're presenting you today. Of that 15,000 that's expanded, in no way, shape, or form is that not going to be spent next year. It's just where is it coming from? It's not that we're spending an additional 15,000 that's already been spent in some of the reserves will then be used in future years. In prior years, this service level 5 is there because at some point we're not going to want to use their fund balance to fund this in future years.
Right.
That's the expectation is that it's not there. But this year, I'm projecting and recommending, as we did within the budget, is that should still be used from their fund balance there due to some savings we've had, some personnel stuff, so on and so forth, that's for 23, but it's there. You know that in the future years, that number could go to 20, 25,000, but there may need to be a supplemental Mount Lebanon municipality appropriation to that fund to make sure that the e-resources are adequate for our population.
So to make sure, So to make sure I understand what you're saying, some of that 64,000 increase is due to increase of employee benefits, and some you're saying is.
So some of it's the RAD decrease because we didn't move the donations from RAD or from Friends of the Library, those types of things. So it is part of it is the RAD decrease in funds is part of it. And some of it is increase in personnel costs that you're seeing across all departments within the municipal budget that you see here is that 64. But in their budget that they're passing at their board level, they're still including that 15,000 for additional e-resources. Okay. It's just our recommendations don't increase our current, say, in prior savings that they've had. We feel that you should be able to use that fund to cover whatever that additional is. And there'll be maybe savings next year, and there may be not. But the idea is that service level 5 is that in future years, there may need to be, hey, it's time to start doing it for current funding.
RAD funds decreasing, is that because lower sales tax across the board?
No,
They're just not giving.
This could take a while if I get into the whole thing.
Well,
I recommend we don't have to do that. I know, so I recommend you.
Meeting, you're gonna
Yeah, in September, library board meeting, I laid it all out.
Okay.
But long story short, there is a 4% RAD increase to county libraries.
Okay.
County libraries excluding Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh are assets, are grant recipients of the ACLA asset.
Right.
And we create a formula to determine how RAD
Yes.
funds are distributed. And RAD's priority at this time is libraries in distressed communities who are not receiving community support. And so
You got less.
we got less. We are not the only one that got less. There were about a dozen libraries that received less funding. Upper St. Clair is looking at 22% reduction from
Wow.
their RAD funds. So we weren't even the worst hit, but it is a significant amount of money.
RAD basically this year required ACLA to come up with a payment formula. Or they threatened to withhold funding even though ACLA is a contractual asset. And Robin had the fortune to chair the formula committee.
I'm the chair of the e-resource funding task force and the RAD.
And RAD made it very clear that they wanted money to go to, as Robin said, distressed or lower level libraries. And so they penalized the higher ones. It was a pure redistribution of funds.
Got it. Understood.
We will be looking at the formula yet again for 2024. So that may change for 2024 because it's so much fun. We can't stop.
Yeah, well.
But I think to Robin's point earlier is that Manager McGill saw that if they're funded where they need to be for next year. I think we work well in tandem.
Absolutely.
We share back and forth. But I did want to say too, I mean, part of that is that in next year's capital improvement plan, we're going to start seeing an item for libraries. So it's those types of conversations we're having, that reliance on RAD, state fundings, friends of the library aren't always going to be there forever. Hey, maybe it is funded by that. Great. We have a benefactor. Hey, I want to give you this. And we have a perfect project, but it might not always be that way. So we're working in tandem to make sure that we're all on the same page, making sure our library's here for another 90 years.
And the state funding, for example, we had a big increase this year, 18%. It's the first time we've had an increase in over 10 years, and we're still not back to what 2007 levels of funding from the state. So, I mean, it's every year it's a new adventure. But as far as the update, I did want to update you on what we talked about last year and let you know that our e-resources usage is still high. It's obviously not as high as it was in 2020 because that's all we were able to offer at that point. So that was about half of our circulation. So we're back to about 30% of our circulation being new resources. But it's interesting to note that our physical collection circulation is almost back to pre-pandemic levels, and we're expecting it to be higher than 2019 for next year, or for this year rather, for 2022. So we don't want to reduce what we contribute to our physical collection to maintain this e-resources collection, which is growing and growing and growing. It's really important to us to continue to have a really strong physical collection. We have a very busy library. It's very well used. Our library patrons, they don't just hang out, they actually use our resources. And we have a lot of great stuff that we're able to offer with our e-resources budget that the other libraries can't offer. We offer things like Canopy and Creative Bug and Heritage Quest. And those are things that only Mount Lebanon card holders are able to access.
So the $15,000, if it's funded, what will our library users see? What will be different for them?
As Andrew said, we are going to fund that.
Okay.
In any case.
But yeah,
The important thing is to know just how it's so much an essential part of what we do
Yeah.
right now. And we can only maintain it with our fund balance for so long.
yeah, you're gonna need
It's
it.
not forever. It's not
Right.
forever thing that won't be incurring. They submitted to us wanting it to be incurred. We decided not.
We did talk about it.
Is it scalable? You know,
5,000?
yeah, I mean, you know.
No,
Okay.
Andrew, a question.
No.
it's not really scalable in the fact of what we're doing here.
We can
Like,
give you an
you're
extra
not gonna get
5,000.
more
If,
for what they need,
in other words, they're asking for 15, and the commission said, well, give them 5.
but what we're,
Just move money around.
You could tell us to give them 5,
Yeah, move money around.
They may say that's not usable. We need
but
to
we're,
go
we're
to-
already doing that by what you're saying. Like, we're already doing, it.
Already moving money.
correct.
Fund balance was 200,000.
The fund balance right now is 257,000.
Oh.
And if we take the $45,000 deficit plus the 15,000 free resources, we're gonna knock 60,000 out of that year,
That's a
which
big,
is significant.
big nut.
Very
Yeah, it is.
significant.
How much do you typically add a year? Any?
There's no typical year. There hasn't been a typical year since 2000.
Okay.
Right.
So in principle, if you wanted to have a percent of your operating budget, what would it be
I'm sorry.
as a reserve? If you wanted to have a
Fund
reserve
balance.
as a percent of your operating budget, what would it be? Again,
The
at what point are we going to deteriorate?
general municipal guidelines are 5 to 15%. The municipality right now is what, 14?
I'm asking about
16.
the
But
library.
I'm saying within, as a municipal, the municipality is at 16%. We will be below 10% after this year.
The state library,
Where
the
does
state
want to
library,
be?
the state library recommends a 6-month operating expenses.
Which would be a little over $1 million, and we have 200,000,
Got it.
250,000.
But I think,
That's what I was-
but I think, all right, I'm just gonna project here, but there's in no way, shape, or form is the library going anywhere.
No.
Right, no, granted being that,
I get
it's,
it.
it's something that we recognized 2 or 3 years ago. E-resources was going to be a item that's going to be increasing.
Right.
It's going to be on the table next year, so where most likely it's gonna be in current. We'll see where the year.
Yeah.
$1 million fund balance would be an amazing thing to have, but our, having the support of a commission in a municipality like this
We pay
renders
up for
it, as long as the community is supporting us the way we are, and the municipality is supporting us, then.
We're good, Jim.
Marcia is shaking her head no.
No, $1 million would be ridiculous.
Well,
You know,
I
But it wouldn't be ridiculous if you had to
if we
do
could
your own.
support ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. And your own rooms, so on and so. So, yeah, we get it.
Municipality provides in the building,
Yeah.
the payroll, just all insurance, just a whole variety of things.
Yes,
I think the number last year was
it's about 2.5 million.
2.5 million as opposed to a $2.1 million budget. So the municipality is providing a lot. We don't need to have $1 million fund balance.
Right.
I mean, personally, I like it around 200,000, which is about 10%. And that's what we'll be at the end of this year. And you can talk about the e-resources, the fact that it's 15,000 that the library will be paying. But this budget right now has a systemic out of balance problem that we have got to deal with over the next few years. We're $45,000 in the hole before we talk about e-resources.
Yeah.
And that to me is more significant or as significant as the discussion on e-resource funding.
Sure. More significant. Bigger number.
And it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So how does the RAD board get appointed?
The RAD board is
I
appointed
mean,
This is a county,
by county commissioners, et cetera. All I can say is the RAD board has no term limits, and the people on the RAD board, many of them have been on. As long as I've been involved with the RAD, they've been, the same people have been the library committee on the RAD board.
and you were there to help create ACLA, what, 25 years ago?
1994, yeah. Yeah, was when ACLA started. Ish, somewhere in there,
Fascinating.
because I was the first president for some years. So somewhere in there,
Mhm. Interesting. Same people. Oh, there
same
you go.
people. It'll be interesting what will happen with the RAD board when county administration changes.
Mhm.
Is there any possibility?
Then
that
you
there
can
could be some
change it.
changes?
That's right.
Political.
There's definitely some.
Oh, heck yeah. There always have been on the county level. Well, the county.
So, but the RAD board
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, interesting. Sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to get us off on that rabbit hole, but
No,
that was
it's
just sort of a like,
Interesting stuff.
well,
And just on a positive, I want to compliment Robin, her staff on 2 things. One, during the pandemic,
yeah.
they simply did an amazing job.
I know.
I determined
Right?
as turning the library inside out.
Yep.
So that they continued to provide services to really anybody that wanted them. They reinvented the programming, so they were able to deliver that virtually.
Mhm.
And most of the public, other than the people that really want to be typically inside the library, did not want for any of the services that the library provides. They developed a safe book pickup and
Yeah.
drop off. I mean, really. credit to you and your staff for, again, sort of reinventing the library, right?
It's been really interesting too. We still have, some of our virtual program attendees are from all across the country. They stumbled
Great.
upon us
That's
during
great.
COVID. One of the knitting group, I think, was in Vermont, and there's somebody else from Texas who's regularly attending our
I'm kidding.
program. So it's really been able, we've been able to broaden our horizons in a lot of ways and just get libraries' name out there and.
I'm enjoying your social media. I think you're doing a great job with the social media. I really do.
The other
Very.
thing that the library did with Robin's direction and working with the library board was to develop a strategic plan for the library.
That's right. Oh, excellent.
So they have now finished that effort. They've implemented the strategic plan and they continue to use that as a living document going forward. So again, a lot of great things under Robin's leadership at the library.
Have we seen the strategic plan?
Yes,
As a commission?
yes,
We did.
presented
I
to you.
presented it last year, but I'm happy to give you an
Yeah.
update anytime you want.
Yeah.
Or send
It's
it.
a little rusty.
And,
Yeah.
Now, Anne has, I'm
I
sure
gave
Anne
Ann
has a copy.
Ann has a
Anne
copy.
has a couple of bits. It's the one thing she hasn't tackled, but she did read all the 5 reports for the DEI. Was that? So come on. Only so many hours a day. And more importantly, there's only so many brain cells here. So I promised I'll come prepared to the meeting.
I'm not worried about that at
Marcia will
all.
have my head,
I do
so-
apologize if I've overwhelmed you at all tonight with all
No,
the complicated.
not at all.
talk.
No, very interesting.
I'm sorry I was late, but I expected you to be running late.
Yeah.
You know, you say 8:30 to be here and they're already started. That's unheard
You
of.
jinxed yourself when you told me that we were gonna be late.
I
Sorry.
was texting.
I know, and I didn't see it. It really mattered. anyway.
Are we done or are we gonna do PIO?
Up to you.
Up to you.
What's PIO?
Oh, public
Public
information.
information.
Laura, Laura, you wanna go, Laura? You wanna
Sorry,
wait?
Laura.
No, Laura's not on the agenda for today, but we just gotta have a schedule, so.
Oh, I
The
see.
next one.
At once, okay.
What do you guys wanna do?
Sure. Well, yeah, it was.
She's here.
I'm here till 8:45. I haven't. Another 15.
Pages of PIO.
Laura, you got 15 minutes.
Hey, Angela, what page is PIO?
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
29.
Page 20.
29. Thank you, library again. Thanks to the whole staff. obviously.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a lot.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Laura.
Like
29.
everybody else, once again, I want to start with thanking you for this opportunity to address your questions, and concerns. And again, I want to thank you for your support. Your support of the website in the last year has really allowed us to put some high quality work into the project. I'll mention that as we get further in. And again, big thanks to Andrew and Terry. This has been the smoothest budget year so far since I've been doing it. And so I do appreciate their help in getting through everything quickly.
Smooth as my bald head. That's right.
I like to show I did not say that. 2022 is the year that Manager Keith McGill requested that the Public Information Office become the hub of all communications of the municipality. And that core principle has been at the heart of everything that we have done this year. Our signature project, as I mentioned before, was the development of a new municipal website. The work on this project has been constant. I know you haven't seen it, but we've been doing it. From improving architecture, design, template layouts, consolidating and moving content that's currently on the site, plus imagining what the site is going to be and creating that
So
content.
much work.
Current timeline projects, just because I know you were going to want to have this update, have them turning the website over to us to start migrating content on December 19th.
Oh.
Nothing going on that time of year.
Yeah.
With the hope of having everything ready for testing and training in January or early February, depending on A, how smoothly that migration goes, and B, how much of my time is needed elsewhere.
So it's a race between Urban Uptown and the website.
I can predict which one will win.
He's in the holiday spirit, isn't he? Early.
Started a lot later. I'm just throwing it.
Yeah.
Idiot.
I'm in the room.
Just a little update of how we're doing in our office. We're kind of using the comprehensive plan to guide some of what we're doing. Ian, when he set up the questioning for the comprehensive plan surveys, asked how people are getting in Mount Lebanon news. With 1,600 surveys in, the top score was Mount Lebanon Magazine with 77% of the people who answered that survey saying that was how they got their news, followed by Lebo Alert at 68%, which kind of surprised me, followed by the municipal website at 45%. Now, I do expect that to go up when the website is usable. So
Right,
I'm
And
expecting,
that was about 1,600 responses on that.
correct, 1,600 responses, right? Followed by the municipal Facebook page at 35%, followed by social media that's not ours, that we don't control,
Right.
at 27%. Then the magazine website, the 710 East Cable, and it went down from there. So
I like the podcast.
thank you.
I've listened to
We're
them.
very excited about that.
Yeah, they're
We're very
really
excited
good.
about that. In no small measure, 2022 has been a year of changes for our office. We've seen many of our costs go up. The cost of labor, the cost of software subscriptions, the cost of paper and postage. In the last 15 months, I've had to fill 6 of 11 staff and contractual positions. Either as employees left, we had somebody become ill. We had
6 of
people-
11?
6 of 11, yes. Had somebody become ill, we had a couple people leave for other work. We had one person who got promoted, which was good, but that created an opening downstream.
Yeah.
And in one case, we terminated a contractor. We also have a full-timer as of Friday will be on family leave for 3 months. On the positive side, we've attracted some wonderful new talent, including a fantastic admin, Karen Gottschall, who previously worked at the library for 7 years, so she was a quick study. And a new content creator, Carrie Monio, who is responsible for the production of our podcast, which again was Ian McNeil's idea. He worked together with Stephanie Hackey, our assistant PIO, who is the one leaving on family leave. So it's been a great project. We love both of them, and Stephanie has really embraced the assistant PIO role as well. She's good. Yeah. The excellent news on the magazine side is that our new sales manager, Stu Chabin, has been able to work with our sales contractors to reach 97% of our sales goal in a very tough advertising climate. This represents nearly $38,000 more in sales than in 2021. For this reason, we have increased our sales goal from 2023 to 480,000, so increase over this year. That additional revenue is needed as significant cost increases this year include the need to purchase 2 computers to replace 2 past their scheduled replacement date for our IT director. Printing costs are up 7.3%. Mail house fees and postage are both up 6%. We also have increases in our creative cloud software, which we need anyway for anything that we do. Our financial software has increased. Hootsuite used to be free, but now they're going to charge us $600 for it. A note on that, we're trying to get along without it. We're trying to kind of manually schedule everything.
Yeah.
But I want it in the budget because in case it becomes too cumbersome, we are going to need to pick that back up again. We are bumping up our freelance proofreaders to $15 an hour. They were less than that this year. Because in our increasing costs, we are increasing advertising rates for the first time since 2013. But it's time. Nothing else has stayed steady since 2013. It's a modest increase with lower percentage increases for clients who buy large contracts. So if you're a 10-time advertiser, your increase is going to be about 10%. And again, that's to try to encourage advertisers to buy more than one ad. The more ads they buy, the cheaper they are. This is in line with other publications. Online rates are not going up because our cost of goods sold hasn't changed that much, a little bit more in labor, but there's no effect to cost of paper or publishing. Cuts I've made include eliminated our monthly printed sales flyer to magazine advertisers. We used to send that out, but we're moving that all via email, migrating some of the increases in printing or mitigating some of the increases in printing and postage. We also cut our social media advertising. We used to pay to boost posts to try to grow our social media audience. We have such good organic growth right now that in this atmosphere of needing to cut some things, I felt that was a painless cut. Because we get many of the local publications we need for free, I cut that budget. The only thing we're going to pay for is for Business Times. We already get the post that through the municipality. Finally, the budget includes a $1,500 line item for our Historic Preservation Board, which is planning a community-wide education event in 2023. They will get plenty of in-kind promotion from our office, so we wouldn't charge that. That's just in case they want to do some programs or they have some cost of rental or something that they might need. So that's just a placeholder. Even though you see an expanded service level in the budget, I'm not asking for that. That was just in case we were faced with a situation where we were going to be increasing our events and I needed to have some ability to pull in extra labor to execute events, but it is in there in case that were to be an eventuality, because we are maxed out in our time in our office, so. That is all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I brought up the events coordinator last year, and I
Right.
still think right now we have director level staff and staff leaders, staff managers putting on all of our events, including the Halloween parade, 4th of July, Veterans Day, and all of the uptown related events as well. So I would like to really flag that one.
Good.
For $12,500, if we can take away some of the time that directors are and the staff.
So that is scalable.
Yeah.
There-
Okay,
there's
hourly
Yeah.
rate. Awesome.
an hourly rate, so we can build that into what makes the most sense. And Eric Miller, when he's here, that's,
We can talk
it's
about
not
that.
just for Laura per se, but
Yeah.
how to best utilize that money for those coordination of events.
Yeah, and you won't get. One person will not be able to do all of our event
Exactly.
coordination.
Yeah.
We will still need existing staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in addition to, and I'll just pick the Halloween parade, in addition to David. There's Zach Walling, there's Pat Cannon, there's any
Right.
number of other, I'll say municipal staff
Right.
who serve in a coordination
Sure.
role to make those events happen.
Yeah.
Same thing with
Between
Fridays.
police, public works,
Happy
fire.
Others, these Fridays, so. But I get your point. If
Yeah,
we
we
can
can
relieve
take
a little
away-
bit of that.
Yeah, pay someone,
So
whatever
cool.
we're gonna pay an hour, instead of a director.
Sure.
That's why we looked at looking at a contract rate as opposed to hiring a part-time employee.
Mhm.
Somebody that already has, you can know, you can already tell if they have the bandwidth, you know, it's
Well, it's
what
not
they
the-
do.
That's not the cost of benefits. I like that.
Yeah, even if it's some of the
Temporary too.
behind the scenes
Yeah.
Exactly.
coordination that happens, like Eric
Early
having to go
morning
out,
setup at 5 AM.
Yes.
Well, that kind of stuff, or even to the point of, identifying entertainment, right, for the
Mhm.
First Friday events, booking those,
Right.
those entertainers, some of the street performers, those kind of things that all take time.
Yeah.
Right, that could relieve Eric, give him a little bit more time to focus on his other functions.
Just
of the
will
position,
come up.
right? So yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
or
lot,
Laura.
a lot of ways that we can
Yeah.
sort of blend that
Yeah,
in.
some staff would be able to-
I think the partnership doesn't end up doing it. In talking to Eric, I think, it would be his desire that the partnership would take on more, but since the partnership in many respects has a number of people that are shopkeepers, et cetera, they haven't been able to do it.
So they have to set up with resources to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
To that end, can I get I don't know, a 5-year trend of the net cost of the magazine?
So right now, there's 11 total people in PIO.
There's 8, 3 of them are contract sales reps that are commissioned only.
Okay, so 8 people. And how many are full-time versus part-time?
There are 3 full-timers, me, our admin, and our assistant PIO.
Okay, so it's 5 part-time. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's great.
10 minutes.
Did a great job.
Yeah.
And understand training service.
That's right.
You are amazing.
Please ask Laura for help when I had.
Yeah, you have to
stuff then.
speak.
And
Will we
talk.
hear any
So
of that?
there-
Yeah, we, Andrew and I are working on that.
If it's like, okay, I'm saying, but, you know, like.
Yeah.
Stay, talk